Chapter 421, Six Infinity Stones Gathered. The two sisters had begun to argue like they were settling a lifetime of grievances. Gamora insisted Thanos had slaughtered her hometown and wiped out her family without leaving a single survivor. Nebula countered that Thanos had turned her into a machine, cold and stripped of any emotion, using her as a tool. Both tried to convince themselves that they could not possibly love Thanos. They were suddenly terrified that what Superman had said might be true. For a moment, neither of them could bring themselves to throw Thanos off the cliff. They could not accept that they might feel deep affection for a man who was their nominal father, their tormentor, and their executioner. "You can deny it," Superman said, "but the fact doesn't change. Most parallel worlds are like this. You can see for yourselves." He didn't intend to spend more time arguing. A red glow flared in his eyes. Gamora and Nebula both fell silent. Their expressions went hollow, as if their bodies were puppets, but their minds remained lucid. Each of them suddenly found themselves back in their own bed. Vormir, Superman, everything gone. They rose in a daze, and before they could make sense of anything, they heard Thanos' orders and were swept back into different lives. Rushing across star systems, hunting the cosmic orb, meeting Star-Lord, forming the Guardians of the Galaxy, opposing Ronan, confronting Ego, fighting through the Infinity War. Superman had projected to each sister a segment of another version of their lives, from Guardians of the Galaxy all the way to Avengers Endgame. What Gamora saw last was Thanos, weeping, hurling her over the cliff. What Nebula saw last was herself and a group of Avengers beheading Thanos in a garden. Before he died, he looked at her and said, "Thank you, my daughter. Maybe I was too strict with you." Nebula staggered under the weight of that scene. When she came back to the cliffside, Superman was still standing there, Thanos unconscious at his feet. "What did you do to us?" Gamora asked, hugging herself, the cool air a reminder she was still alive. Nebula stared blankly. In her visions, real or not, Gamora had taken Thanos to Vormir and been sacrificed to save her. That was utterly different from the sister who had always hurt her. "I let you experience things you hadn't yet lived," Superman said, waving a hand. "So, those were all true?" Nebula asked, tentative. "They were true in another universe. For you, they could be true too." Superman pointed at the inert body. "Before this, one of you was a killer filled with nothing but hatred, and the other was a tool, brute-forced until you couldn't clearly see your own thoughts. I think after seeing another life, you've begun to understand yourselves," he said. "The people you love can be the ones you most hate, and those you despise can be the ones you care for. Now, throw Thanos off." Gamora and Nebula looked at Thanos, lost in thought. The experience had changed something in them, particularly Nebula. Moments ago, she had watched Thor decapitate Thanos. Now she stood at the cliff, ready to dispose of his body instead. "You're collecting the Infinity Stones," Gamora asked cautiously. "What are you going to do with them? Exterminate half of life like Thanos, or rule the universe?" "To stop Thanos," Superman said simply. "In other worlds, there's a council of Thanoses destroying entire universes." "Thanos forming a council across universes? How is that possible?" "Do you have proof?" Gamora demanded. "Believe it or not, it's your choice. 30 seconds. Throw him, or I will wake him." Gamora's pupils tightened. She stood, instinctively reaching for Nebula to flee. Only Nebula, usually stiff and mechanical, moved with the sudden agility of a rabbit. Her expression unreadable, she walked to Thanos, took a long last look, bent down, and lifted his legs. "I believe you," she said. Nebula spoke little. Without complaint, she hoisted Thanos and stepped toward the cliff. "Gamora!" she called. Gamora fought her own turmoil. Her eyes darted between Superman, Nebula, and Thanos. Finally, she clenched her teeth, rushed to Nebula's side, and heaved, supporting Thanos' upper body with both hands. She met Nebula's eyes. "This time, I'm with you." Nebula only nodded after a beat. Side by side at the cliff's edge, the sisters held Thanos like a heavy sack. They did not give him a final look. They pressed their lips together and, together, released. The purple giant fell into the abyss. When they let go, Gamora's cheeks quivered. Nebula closed her eyes. Despite her enhanced body, her face showed exhaustion and relief. Perhaps in that moment, each had finally recognized the truth in her own heart. Thanos had been their enemy, but he had also been the father who raised them. The Soul Stone accepted the sacrifice. An orange glow blossomed from the abyss, enveloping Gamora and Nebula. The Cliff and Red Skull, who guided souls, vanished. Superman rose and landed gently as the two sisters lay unconscious in a shallow salt pool, their hands clasped together. Between their palms pulsed the orange Soul Stone. Their minds drifted into the Soul Stone's realm, where perhaps Thanos himself had come to say farewell. Superman knelt and took the Soul Stone from their joined hands. Gamora and Nebula opened their eyes, melancholy and teary. "It looks like your farewell to Thanos was complete," he said. "You're free now," Superman added, standing. "There's no ship here. Before you go, I can give you one last lift." Gamora looked as if she wanted to ask more about this Thanos council, but Nebula spoke first. "I want to go back to Earth, to the small world. I want to keep working." Superman blinked. "You want to go back to shoveling dragon dung?" "Can't I?" Nebula said. "It's work, not dung shoveling," she corrected, deadpan. "Of course you can." Superman turned to Gamora. She fell silent. The other life she had seen made her curious to meet the guardians of the galaxy of this universe, but those people and relationships were not hers. What she did own was the peaceful year she had spent in the small world, the most relaxed time of her life. "I'll go to the small world too," she said at last. Superman barely hid a smile. "Then enjoy the work. And even if you're free, remember to finish today's tasks when you get back." He flicked his hand. A portal opened beneath them. Gamora and Nebula screamed as they were drawn through. The portal closed and Vormir fell silent. "The last stone, the Soul Stone, is mine," Superman said. He held the stone quietly in his palm and withdrew it into his inner world. Unlike Thanos, who needed the gauntlet to wield the stones, Superman used his inner world as a natural vessel. One by one, he integrated the 6 stones into that space. Their energies, 6 different colors, stretched like ribbons and braided together, radiating through his inner void. The world within him expanded. He directed some of the energy into his body. Immediately, his consciousness soared. He could see the entire universe like a map, and his perception reached beyond it into the multiverse. As he looked up through layers of cosmic barriers, he met the stare of a massive bald man in a blue-purple robe. Why is Superman looking this way? Wait, no, you can see me." The bald man's forehead twitched in alarm, and he disappeared in a flash. "Hey, wait." Superman started, but the figure was gone. "Observer? Has he been watching me all along?" Superman wondered, recognizing Watu the Observer, an entity who dwells outside universes to watch them, sometimes lingering on intriguing Earthlings from birth to death. Never mind him. With the inner world as carrier, the 6 stones' powers melded perfectly. He could now call on any stone at will. If he invoked them all at once, his power would spike without limit, his sight climbing from galactic to transuniversal. He would be capable of annihilating an entire universe. Superman smiled faintly and, with a simple gesture, opened a spatial rift through the world barrier. Chapter 422, I Am Destiny. The past 2.5 years, I have fully comprehended the rules of time, space, and reality. With the help of the anti-life equation, I've grasped 70% of the mind rule. I've also mastered 40% of the power rule. Within my perception range, I can now manipulate rules to exert power equivalent to the space, time, and reality stones. And now, with all 6 Infinity Stones assembled, my understanding of the rules has allowed me to use the Infinity Stones even more perfectly. Leon unleashed a blast of 6-stone energy at the spatial rift. For a moment, a tiny universe bubbled out of the void. Then it shriveled and burst. He sensed the recoil and summarized to himself. At least the backlash from the Infinity Stones was much smaller than he'd feared, and he didn't have to clench his fist or snap his fingers like Thanos. If he had to compare, having the 6 Infinity Stones integrated into his inner world made him feel a lot like Infinite Ultron, only Ultron seemed to suffer no side effects from using them. Leon still felt a degree of backlash. As for raw destructive power, he couldn't be certain who was stronger until they fought, but he knew this. Maybe he couldn't, like Infinite Ultron, turn multiple universes into cosmic soup in an instant, but collapsing a single universe was certainly within reach. And if the backlash killed his physical body, he could always rebuild another. To become a cosmic-level entity just like that, the Infinity Stones are absurd, he muttered. In the Starry Sky system, at the Chaos Dominator stage, one could unleash an attack that wiped out an observable universe-level world. Now, with a thought, he could collapse an entire universe. Marvel's reality really was full of wonders. It was time to find Thanos. Leon reined in the rippling Infinity Stone energy and folded it back into his inner world. He took out the time tablet and opened a space-time gate to a parallel world. From the start, he decided not to bring Tony or Little Spider. Defeating the Thanos of this movieverse might not be impossible, but bringing them along could raise the difficulty from 1 star to 2. The six-stone Thanos in the movies had to clench his fist to channel power and snap his fingers to unleash maximum force. Compared to his comic counterpart, he was vastly weakened. The main worry was keeping Thanos from snapping his fingers successfully. Even though Leon himself now held all 6 stones, he was here to save the world and wanted to minimize casualties. If possible, he wanted to see Thanos' power after he activated the stones. He stepped into the space-time gate. The orange rectangular doorway closed behind him. Parallel world. Dark clouds rolled across the sky, lightning streaked through them, and a burning city convulsed beneath. It looked like a painting of the apocalypse. Amid the ruins, the remaining Avengers were soaked in blood and sweat. This was New York. More than half a month earlier, the Avengers had fought in Wakanda, driven Thanos off Earth, only for him to return now. Minutes before Leon arrived, people on Earth had been turning to ash one by one. Wanda had frantically tried to summon Leon, but had gotten no reply. Moments later, Thanos reappeared with his fleet. The sky darkened with artillery fire, and every resisting force was crushed. Thanos stood on the city's ruins, right hand behind his back, left hand clenching all the Infinity Stones. If one looked closely, his left arm and shoulder were streaked with blood, the backlash from the first snap that had wiped out half the universe. Now he had come back from other universes, and he was ready to finish what he'd begun. "What a pity," he said, surveying the devastation. His gaze burned like the inferno beneath his feet. "In your universe, the other half died randomly. Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Thor Odinson, all turned to dust." He recited names like trophies. "Otherwise, I would have told them in person, your universe will be destroyed because of your ingratitude." His voice was slow, rage barely contained. "I sacrificed what I loved. I lost everything, all to bring balance to the universe, the balance everyone needed. And you, people of Earth, ruined everything I gave." Thanos stood like a volcanic core about to erupt. Around him, the injured Avengers watched him with tired, hateful eyes. In this universe, the Mind Stone used in the first snap hadn't come from that universe, so the people who had vanished weren't Wanda, Spider-Man, or Nick Fury. Instead, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Captain America, and others were dust. As Thanos' fleet loomed, Fury had rallied the Avengers in Kamar Taj, but even if the vanished heroes had been there, none of them could take on Thanos with 6 stones. The scattered remnants of Earth's forces were clinging to life. "Motherfucker! He killed so many people and expects gratitude?" Fury spat. He was pale. The energy blast had left a gaping wound in his gut, and he was bleeding out. Wanda used chaos magic to staunch the other's wounds. Little Spider lay nearby, missing an arm. Mr. Stark turned to dust. Everyone died. Can we really defend Earth?" someone asked in a cracked voice. Wanda drew a ragged breath. "Yes, as long as Leon comes, everything will be fine. Don't talk. Let me stop your bleeding." She was soaked in sweat, her fair cheeks streaked with smoke. Pietro, whom Leon had saved years ago, was wounded but alive. The Avengers hung by a thread, waiting for the Superman Wanda had summoned, Leon. Thanos felt no personal urge to massacre the planet. His fury was aimed at anyone who would undo his snap. Whether this Earth beneath his boots or the stars above, he had decided they would all be remade according to his balance. "I know that if I let you live, you will try to undo what I created," he said. "It's all futile. You call me a madman. I am the savior. You think you're saving the world, but you're only delaying the true ending. You think you can win, but I am inevitable." He raised his golden gauntleted hand. "You do not understand my mercy. I will destroy this world and remake a universe that understands gratitude." "Thanos, is your so-called mercy endless slaughter?" Wanda burst out. She rose from the ruins, chaos magic glowing around her hands, fury on her face. "You destroyed everything here. No one will let you go." Thanos narrowed his eyes. Who are you? Heh, I paid every price for this moment. You cannot stop me. Because he brought thumb and forefinger together and began to channel power. I am innovative. Huh! A titanic force ripped his fingers apart. Someone had forced his clasp open. What? Leon. Thanos' incredulous cry and Wanda's relieved shout rose at the same time. A figure in a dark battlesuit appeared out of thin air in front of Thanos. A cape fluttered in the hot wind over the ruins. His short hair was neat and clean. Sorry I'm late, Leon said with a small nod to Wanda. He glanced at the orange portal a few hundred meters away. The time tablet's positioning was precise, right at the moment you were about to snap. He had stepped through as Thanos mouthed, I am inevitable. He couldn't let that stand. In an instant, he flashed at light speed and had forced Thanos' fingers apart. The battered Avengers poked their heads out from the rubble. The first sight of Leon made them whisper among themselves. Is he Superman? Can he beat Thanos? He's the one who saved me 2.5 years ago, Pietro said. Wanda trusts him. I think he can do it. A young Holland spider, even with a broken arm, jabbered about costume details. Thanos looked down. The giant dwarfing Leon seemed to look like a hulking man confronting a scrawny kid. You are the one who crossed worlds and ruined our plans, he accused, venom in his voice. Leon released Thanos' fingers, shifted his stance, and wedged his palm into the webbing of Thanos' thumb and forefinger. He tilted his head and, genuinely puzzled, said, I just took the Mind Stone. I wouldn't call that destroying all of your plans, would I? Thanos' expression twisted into a grin. You really do know about us. Very good. Since you've brought yourself to me, I will utterly destroy you and this universe. He tried to bring his fingers together again. He wanted to crush Leon's palm and end this, but the slender palm lodged between his fingers was like an unbreakable rock, immovable. This is impossible, Thanos roared, pouring more strength into the motion. But the more force he used, the more stunned he became. At first it felt like trying to crush a rock. Now it felt like trying to move a mountain. That palm would not budge, would not tremble. Thanos' eyes widened. Leon looked up at him and smiled. You can try harder. This is impossible. Thanos echoed the exclamation from seconds before, disbelief written across his face. He had prowled the cosmos for ages, fought wars of blood and fire, smashed worlds and foes, but he had never met anyone with power like Leon's. So overwhelming that for the first time in his life, it made him feel the urge to give up. He had used everything. Even the protective shields of a cosmic battleship would have been crushed by the force he'd unleashed. Yet the figure before him showed no sign of strain. He even cocked his head and looked at Thanos with mild curiosity, as if wondering why the Titan's strength was so paltry. A bit weak, Thanos, Leon said, sweeping a glance over the veins bulging at Thanos' throat. He could tell the Titan had used everything he had. You want to save the universe. Fine, but saving it your way won't work. This is the Infinity Gauntlet the dwarves forged for me? Let me see. Leon reached out and placed a hand on Thanos' left arm. With one hand supporting the arm and the other working the clenched fist, he slowly pulled the Infinity Gauntlet free from Thanos' hand. Thanos' jaw worked. Desperation stole his voice. Impossible. The universe needs balance. Only I can. He curled his fingers, trying to prevent Leon from taking the gauntlet. His muscles trembled. With his right hand, he grabbed Leon by the shoulder and hauled, giving everything he had. But Leon, small by comparison, was unmoved, rooted like an ancient tree whose roots sank through bedrock. Bombard the earth with everything you've got, now! Thanos roared hoarsely, bellowing orders at the fleet hanging in the sky. The main ship of his armada loomed overhead. Its muzzles opened, and tens of thousands of energy weapons began to converge their power, a murderous glow building as they prepared to fire. Then 2 crimson beams divided the sky. They split the main ship cleanly in two, a seam appearing across its hull as molten material poured from the cut. Within breaths, a violent explosion ripped through the vessel, and the ship erupted in fire. Thanos watched horrified as Leon's crimson glare faded back to black. He staggered through the question that had been tearing him apart. This power, who are you? At first his voice quavered. Then, with a roar, Thanos' right hand shoved Leon off his shoulder. He wrenched the Power Stone from the gauntlet and purple energy, dangerous and seductive, flooded his palm. The Power Stone represented primal destructive force. Thanos roared as violet energy cloaked half his body and swung a fist toward Leon. Even one stone alone could obliterate a planet. Thanos slapped it on without regard for the backfire. The purple blast bloomed in the ruins like a malevolent flower. No one should have survived that blow. Even Thanos, channeling the stone through his body, would feel backlash. Leon made no attempt to dodge. He watched the punch come and casually withdrew his left hand, placing his palm directly in the path of Thanos' fist. Clang. Fist met palm with a sound like metal on steel. The Power Stone's energy crashed into Leon, but it didn't shatter him. Thanos felt as if he'd punched some cosmic barrier. No ripples, no reaction. As the stone's power ebbed, Leon remained untouched, not even a singe to his hair. He gripped Thanos' fist and with deliberate ease began to pry it open. Bit by bit, the Titan's clenched fingers loosened. "Stop! You're preventing the universe from achieving balance," Thanos growled through gritted teeth, muscles straining. He could only watch Leon ease his hand open. Leon smiled faintly, a smile that never left his lips. He handled the situation like an adult playing arm wrestling with a child. "The universe's laws include imbalance and destruction," he said softly. He plucked the Power Stone from Thanos' palm, slipped it back into the gauntlet, and casually removed the entire Infinity Gauntlet from Thanos' hand. The Titan tried to resist. His left hand gave way in the effort, and the fingers fractured under strain, but it accomplished nothing. He was limp as a puppet. Leon manipulated him without effort. "You're just going to stand by and watch the universe tear itself apart because of resource scarcity? Then why don't I just end it all now?" Thanos said, his voice rough with defeat. With his mangled hand dangling, he stared at Leon, resentful. "If your purpose in killing half the population was to delay Celestials from manifesting their godhood across the universe, then maybe you were saving the other half." Leon said, "But wiping out half the universe to save resources? That's a crude solution." Leon slipped the Infinity Gauntlet onto his own hand. He had his own inner world, his own means, but a snap would fit the scene. Thanos, shaken, stared at him. "You know the Celestials. Who are you?" "Haven't I introduced myself?" Leon raised his left hand and brought his thumb and middle finger together. "I am, well, you can call me Superman." Snap. Leon snapped his fingers, and for a frozen instant, the whole universe seemed to hold its breath. The next second, the cosmic fleet hanging in the sky vanished as if swallowed by nothing. Dust swirled through the ruins of the city. Particles coalesced into forms, and as though time had been reversed, those forms took shape as living humans. Billions of people on Earth returned in that moment. "Phew, that wasn't as harsh as I thought," Leon murmured as he removed the charred Infinity Gauntlet. He found his own left hand intact, save for a few scorched fingertips. A blow of air, and the smudges faded away. Thanos retreated a few steps, took in the resurrected crowd, and slumped down on a boulder. He knew he'd failed, but he felt only resignation, not rage this time. He took a communicator from his waist and pressed a button, looking up at Leon as he spoke. "You can stop me, but you can't stop everyone." As he finished, Thanos' body crumbled into gray dust and dispersed on the breeze. "Everyone?" Leon was puzzled for a moment. The Avengers nearby were already rejoicing. Tony, Captain America, those who had died in the snap were back. A young Spider-Man with a severed arm, Nick Fury with a wounded abdomen, and other grievously injured heroes stood, healed by Leon's snap. Wanda ran to him, throwing her arms around his neck, soot marking her face like a child's paint. Leon tapped her forehead with a finger and couldn't help laugh. "How did you get this covered in ash? You're not hurt, but you look like a chimney sweep." Wanda blinked, realizing she really did look a mess. "Maybe go have dinner with the others," she said. "I'll find you later." Leon pushed her gently away, producing his time pad. "I still need to talk to a few other Thanos." "Other Thanos?" Wanda asked, stunned. "Yes." Leon opened a portal on the pad. Once the gauntlets and stones were secured, they should go to the TVA to return to their original owners and avoid butterfly effects. He kissed Wanda lightly on the soot-smudged forehead and stepped toward the portal. In the TVA command room, a woman labeled B-15 watched the footage of Leon doing what no one else could. She slammed her fist on a table and breathed. "Well done." Faster than Thanos' reactions, strong enough to withstand the Power Stone, How could he lose in that situation? She added, relief flooding her voice. She felt a pang of regret. Too bad Superman wouldn't take a job. Those Council of Kangs wouldn't stand a chance. Back in New York's ruins, Leon couldn't stay in the moment. He retrieved the communicator Thanos had dropped. A data transfer had completed. He opened it and found combat logs auto-recorded by Thanos' systems and uplinked. The recipients were listed by code names, number 2 through number 24. A quantum communicator. Could it send messages to parallel worlds? Besides sending messages to other versions of himself in other universes before his death, Leon couldn't imagine another purpose. Is he trying to warn them? Help them escape? He wondered, shaking dust off the device. It mattered little. TVA's time pad moved freely across timelines. Whatever messages had been sent, he could still intercept them. At that moment, Wanda, from a nearby parallel world, flung herself back into his arms and stayed there, grip sure and familiar. Leon smiled, but before he could act more, the ruins trembled. Whoosh! 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 Time-space folded and snapped open around them. More than 20 tall, purple forms shimmered into being near the spot where Thanos had turned to dust. Each wore battle armor, a belt of Pym particles at the waist, carried a double-bladed axe, and most alarming, wore an infinity gauntlet on their left hand, each loaded with 6 stones. 23 Thanos. They appeared like monarchs surveying their domain. Killing intent rolled off them in waves. Terror ran through the assembled crowd. One Thanos had nearly brought the world to its knees. 23 could annihilate it. Wanda threw both hands outward and summoned chaos magic, ready to fight beside Leon. Iron Man, Captain America, and the others rushed toward them. The Thanos in the ranks sneered as they took in the Avengers. Then their cold, terrible gaze settled on Leon. You're the one who crosses worlds and stands in our way? One Thanos asked coldly, staring at Legiduo. You killed Thanos number 1, another added, certain. Legiduo looked around at the ring of Thanos' sizing him up. He remembered Little Spider's complaint back at the TVA and couldn't help but agree inwardly. Having so many purple guys together really did make his eyes go funny. They all looked almost identical, like being trapped among 23 mirrors reflecting the same face. The urge to comment was itchy, but he suppressed it. He turned his palm slightly, and the surrounding space shifted. The air went from still to charged. Space fractured like glass and spread outward in an instant, swallowing the Earth. A vast mirror dimension unfurled. Legiduo casually cast the ward and dragged himself and 23 Thanos into the new plane. The scene around them remained the ruined New York they'd been standing in, but Wanda and the Avengers were gone. I thought after Thanos, after the one who died, sent you a message, you'd run from your universes as fast as you could, Legiduo said, watching the Thanos ring him. They hadn't even resisted being pulled in. They'd come for him, revenge, or to clear any obstacle to their mission. Legiduo stored the Infinity Gauntlet in his inner world and flexed his wrists. Didn't expect you all to come looking for me. Saves me the trouble of hopping worlds. The Thanoses grinned, feeling the wind in their palms. 23 Thanos, 23 gauntlets, except for one who'd swapped with Thanos number 1 and only had 4 stones. Every other Thanos possessed all 6. With that army, even the Celestials would have to bow. We are destiny. We are the balance of the universe. Whoever blocks the future will be crushed, one Thanos intoned. Others joined, lecturing, threatening. You and those Earthlings are ignorant ants, dust to be swept away for a new world, another sneered. Defy fate and I'll hang your head among the stars of the new universe. Destiny, all the Thanos shouted together, their fists clenching. They didn't snap. Snapping is the stone's max output and invites backlash. But they activated single and multiple stones at once. Purple, blue, green, orange, yellow, red. 6 colors flared, bathing Legiduo in the awful brilliance of Infinity Stone power. 23 attacks unfolded simultaneously. One Thanos clenched his left fist, tucked it at his waist, and used the Space Stone to spawn a miniature black hole and fling it. Another combined space and power to rip the moon from the sky within the mirror dimension. Others unleashed every frightening combo. Reality Stone illusions laced with Mind Stone control, Power Stone bursts overlaid with Time Stone pauses, gravity pulls, time freezes, space prisons, psychic assaults, their effects stacked on Legiduo. Even a falling moon and swarming artificial black holes assaulted him. If Kang the Conqueror had been struck by this ensemble, he might have become Kang the Defeated. At TVA headquarters, B-15 watched the feed with wide eyes, fist pounding the desk. She prayed the man on the screen could turn it around, though she had little confidence and feared what would come next. The attack came. Legier Duo's counter was a storm. A rigid Duo clone in his inner world, clutching the anti-life equation, shattered the stone's illusions. The 6 stone's energies flowed into Legier Duo. Every cell and drop of blood in him glittered with their colors. Time stops, and spatial prisons dissolved. Legier Duo channeled the stone's energy outward from his palm. Black holes and the falling moon twisted into white petals and blew apart, drifting down like snow. The petals fell over the 23 Thanos, blurring their vision. They stared, stunned that Legier Duo could dissolve their combined assault in what looked like certain death. How was he using the stones without a gauntlet? One Thanos snarled, bewildered. Others realized things had gone wrong. Fingers tightened into snapping positions, but they hesitated. Legier Duo was using the stones more efficiently than any of them. If it came to a raw clash, perhaps this single opponent could outmatch 23 gauntlets. So they decided to force the issue. Maximum activation, simultaneous snap. But Legier Duo's advantage wasn't just the stones. It was his speed, power, and reaction. Thanos becomes more dangerous when he clenches or snaps, but their reflexes still lagged behind Legier Duo. Before the nerve signal for a snap could travel, he was already at the hand poised to snap. He slipped between tendons and bones, pried open fingers with one hand, and ripped the gauntlets free. When he first dealt with a single Thanos, he might have spared time for words. Not now. With so many gauntlets, he moved fast, snatched the gauntlet, heat vision cut. Those who lost their gauntlets were immediate casualties. Without them, they were only pseudo-divine. Legier Duo's heat vision swept top to bottom. Thanos's who'd been disarmed were cleaved in 2. Their eyes still rolled as their bodies split. He moved with light-exceeding speed, suppressing each Thanos's time stone while he slipped past, like walking through a frozen tableau. The 23 were arranged in a circle, which let him work around them methodically, one by one, as if on a stroll. On the TVA's screen, B-15 watched Legier Duo seem to multiply. Each flash a gauntlet snatched, each beam a corpse split. When the last Thanos toppled, split from waist to head, Legier Duo tossed the infinity gauntlet behind him and dispelled the mirror dimension. The gauntlets hit the ground and clattered together, rolling into a pile with metallic echoes. Back in New York, the Avengers, who had been waiting where Wanda told them to, startled at the noise. A vast array of weapons had been trained on that spot, hundreds of thousands of nukes, missiles, guns. When the gauntlets and the bisected Thanos reappeared, dozens of those weapons fired. Legier Duo glanced at them. The incoming bullets and missiles dissolved into falling petals. "Legier Duo, are you all right?" Wanda cried, flying forward. "Thanos, we won't let you snap that finger this time," Captain America shouted. Courage was never his problem. There was no reply. The Thanos' consciousnesses were frozen at the moment of attack, eyes rolling, mouths open. Then, as the seconds passed, each body split neatly from head to waist and collapsed. Some steps forward were completed with the body falling halves and halves. All the corpses lay split and still. Nick Fury swore in disbelief. Tony and the others stood stunned. Dead? All of them. They stared at Legier Duo like he was a miracle. He was gone less than half a minute, and Superman killed every one of those Thanos holding Infinity Stones? Little Spider tugged at Iron Man's arm, swallowing. Brutal. Some Avengers embraced Legier Duo. Some stood speechless before the corpses. Fury, pulling himself out of shock, walked toward the pile of gauntlets. He reached to grab one, then Legier Duo's hand stopped him. "Sorry," Legier Duo said, gently holding Fury's arm. "These stones have to be returned to their rightful owners. As for the ones from your universe, someone will return them later." He patted Fury's arm, then waved to Wanda. "I'm leaving, Wanda. I'll find you in a couple of days." He opened a space-time door and vanished, taking the 23 Thanos and all the Infinity Stones with him. For a few silent seconds, the Avengers just watched the spot where he'd been. He left already? I didn't even get to thank him," Pietro muttered. "Maybe we should celebrate my parallel world brother?" Tony said, half joking, looking at Legiduo as if he were family from another reality. Good idea, Little Spider piped up. Is there pizza? Cheese pizza. Of course, you can have whatever you want, someone laughed, and the tension broke as the group moved toward the pile of gauntlets and the strange, sudden quiet. Chapter 425, a variant of Kang, Pharaoh Kang. Lion arrived in the Time Variance Authority command room to find two halves of Thanos and shredded infinity gauntlets scattered across the floor. B-15 stood frozen before the bodies, half her face splattered with purplish-red blood from where the corpses had hit. For a moment, her thoughts jumbled. 1 second, she'd been watching Lion on the screen, applauding him for resolving a multiversal crisis. The next, the room looked like an R-rated murder scene, the orange walls sprayed with gore. She stood there stunned, then, unable to help herself, quoted Deadpool's trademark fourth-wall quip, "Superman, why did you bring back these Thanos bodies? This isn't a movie set, is it?" "Oh, these are props for your Deadpool 3, Lion answered automatically, playing along with the complaint. "You won't need to prepare them when filming starts." He cleared his throat. "Ahem, no. You should send these bodies and the Infinity Gauntlets back to their original universe." The TVA had long ago absorbed Deadpool's habit of breaking the fourth wall. Lion felt like he was arguing with Deadpool in person. Deadpool was a virus. Wherever he went, he left a trace. "Right. We should return them," B-15 said. Her gaze lingered on the neatly sliced Thanos bodies, mainly on the exposed organs and the gore that spilled when the bodies were cut. "Shit," she muttered, quickly looking away. Thanos, the former overlord of the universe, reduced to such a mess was regrettable, but the TVA wasn't short on major time criminals. Aside from beings like Eternity, Galactus, and Arishem who were beyond their control, the Authority held almost everything else. There were so many Doctor Stranges in their prisons that they could barely contain them. B-15 shut her eyes for a moment, then looked back at Lion. "Half the people in the universes those Thanoses came from have disappeared," she said. "Those universes still need the Infinity Gauntlets." "I'll assign someone to return the stones," Lion replied. "After they're used, the stones will be scattered back through their universe. Jarvis will supervise the whole operation to make sure nobody gets funny ideas." The TVA had incorporated Jarvis's sub-entities into its supervision system. Jarvis reported regularly to Lion, sometimes to complain to Tony about lewd behavior among TVA staff. B-15 and Lion exchanged a look. "Good. With Jarvis supervising, I won't interfere," Lion said. "I need to get back. Tony's wedding is still on my schedule." He waved and reached for the time-space doorway, then remembered something. "Oh, and tell Deadpool to stop harassing Jarvis. He said the workplace harassment is making him depressed." Deadpool had a soft spot for the Avengers, even for AI like Jarvis. Normally that was fine, but Deadpool's way of showing affection was perverted. B-15's mouth twitched. Her fingers tapped awkwardly on the time pad. What could she say? That she, too, found Deadpool presumptuous? "I'll pass it on," she said. Lion smiled, opened the portal, and was about to step through when B-15's time pad pinged with a notification from another department. She glanced at it, and her expression went serious. "Superman, we might have a bigger problem. You should hang back a little longer." Another Thanos slipped through? Lion hovered closer. The TVA's time suppression didn't fully dampen his abilities, so he could float. The floor was already soaked in blood. "No," B-15 said. "Bigger. The real mastermind behind this Thanos multiversal incident." She stepped over the blood and tapped the screen. A TVA surveillance feed popped up, footage from Earth Timeline 199999 F2. On the screen, Thanos sat high on his throne, radiating menace. Before him stood a black man wearing a gold-striped headdress, scepter in hand, dressed like an ancient Egyptian pharaoh. "Those Avengers have already spread across the multiverse," the man told Thanos, his voice articulate and trained like a public speaker's. "If you do nothing, they'll destroy everything you've built." Thanos looked down at him. "You want me to destroy the universe and remake it. Why?" "We share the same enemies, a lot of clueless jokers," the pharaoh said, leaning on his scepter. He turned his head and, shockingly, looked straight at the TVA surveillance camera. For example, his hawk-like gaze pierced the lens as if addressing whoever watched. His lips moved silently. From the shape of his mouth, B-15 read the words, "We will come for you very soon." The feed went to static. In the TVA command room, B-15 watched the blank screen, lips tight. She drew a breath. "That man is Kang, right?" Lion guessed. "One of the countless Kang variants in the multiverse, Pharaoh Kang." "You know him?" B-15 asked, surprised. Lion nodded. He had to know. Kang variants were everywhere. The original Kang, He Who Remains, had once founded the TVA at the end of time, pruning the many timelines into a single sacred timeline. He'd been killed by a Loki variant, Sylvie, and the TVA had changed. The sacred timeline splintered into the current MCU multiverse. Since then, every universe had its own Kang variant, Pharaoh Kang, Immortus, even an LGBTQ variant. Some were monstrously cruel, some were genocidal. Almost all of them wanted to rule the multiverse, and many would stop at nothing. Pharaoh Kang's one of the big three, B-15 said. He even appeared in the post-credits scene of Ant-Man 3. He's a major player in Phase 6. So the main multiversal crisis is caused by Kang? Lion asked. He remembered Eternity's earlier hint of a hidden threat and wondered if it was the Council of Kangs. Exactly. B-15's voice hardened. Ever since the change, we've been monitoring Kang variants and trying to apprehend them across the multiverse. They're dangerous. Whenever they show up, they cause massive casualties, and sometimes they warp the way entire universes function. Now it looks like they've set their sights on Thanos, planning to use him to restart a universe. They'll trigger a catastrophic war. We must arrest every one of them. B-15 was cold with conviction. Lion took the threat seriously. These Kangs would be his prime enemies for a while. "How many Kangs have you captured so far?" he asked. B-15's fire dimmed. "None." She looked troubled. "Peter and Wade have gone after some of these Kangs. They've teamed up to try to catch them, but they failed each time. Those target Kangs vanish mysteriously. Their methods are unpredictable. Even TVA time tracking has trouble following them." Lion's face went grave. A swarm of variants that even the TVA couldn't net? He imagined an invisible web draping the multiverse. "Is Pharaoh Kang still in that universe?" "I'll go try to apprehend him." B-15 brightened. "Of course, if anyone can catch Kang, it's you." She pulled up all she had on Pharaoh Kang. He's from the F branch of the 199999 Macroverse. Originally, he came from the 31st century, a descendant of Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. He used time tech to travel to ancient Egypt and ruled Earth and parts of the universe during that period. "Wait," Lion interrupted, surprised. "Reed Richards, do we even have a Mr. Fantastic in our multiverse?" "Of course," B-15 said, puzzled that Lion knew the name but not his status. "Mr. Fantastic and the Fantastic Four are from the main MCU universe. They later slipped into another universe." "Oh, right. The universe where the Fantastic Four ended up was destroyed not long ago. They might have returned to the main universe." B-15 paused, then pointed at Lion. "The Fantastic Four from your universe might return too." Lion felt his forehead twitch. "There really is a Fantastic Four? If they return, let me know." "Will do," B-15 said. She studied him. "Do you like them a lot? Want to greet them personally?" "Greet? No. I'd rather send them somewhere else," Lion replied dryly. In the comics, Reed Richards had a habit of causing problems and dragging the universe into crises. Lion thought it would be better to ship him off to another world, maybe the zombie universe, to save it or cause someone else's nightmares. B-15 blinked at his comment, then steered them back to the matter at hand. These Kang variants move across the multiverse. To catch one, you have to go to the last time point he appeared. Otherwise, you'll cause timeline fluctuations. She manipulated the screen to show a time stream, highlighting a flickering point. "He's still in Thanos' world. Go to that last appearance point, and you can find him." Her fingers stabbed the blinking mark. Lion didn't hesitate. He linked his time pad to the TVA system, locked on to the specified point in time, and opened a time-space portal with a tap. "I'm going in. Wait for my report." He stepped through the doorway toward the time where Pharaoh Kang had been. This might be the most dangerous tech-based enemy he'd faced yet. Chapter 46, Kang. "It's Dr. Doom?" Earth NAS 199999 F2. Leon stepped out of the portal, 10,000 meters above ground, appearing directly in the sky. He switched on his supervision and swept the whole planet. In an instant, he locked onto a figure standing on top of a pyramid in Egypt. Pharaoh Kang stood there like a monarch surveying his domain. Leon had deliberately traveled only through time, not popped in right in front of him. As long as the opponent wasn't absurdly prescient, Leon could use speed surpassing light to take them out before they could react. He vanished from high altitude like a phantom. He didn't use spatial powers this time, just pure speed, crossing most of the planet to appear behind Pharaoh Kang in a blink. Kang, dressed in ancient Egyptian regalia, was still looking out across the desert, perhaps waiting for news from Thanos. But whatever Kang's schemes with Thanos were, they didn't concern Leon at the moment. Leon wrapped himself in a biofield and moved with fluid, decisive motion. The moment he materialized, he struck Pharaoh Kang with a thunderous punch. At the same instant, he clamped a TVA time control collar around Kang's neck and used time law to freeze the immediate surroundings. Technology and magic both pinned Kang to the rules of time. One of Leon's hands still held Kang by the throat. He watched closely. Kang stilled, every visible sign of life suspended, every cell apparently frozen, and Leon allowed himself to relax. He crouched beside the motionless figure. "Looks resolved," he muttered. The man smelled terrible. Leon wrinkled his nose. "All these Kangs in a meeting must reek like a barrel of pickles," he complained silently. He opened his temporal pad, preparing to take Kang back to the TVA. The trip had gone far smoother than he'd expected, almost suspiciously smooth. Most Kang variants, unless they could control time themselves, like Kang the One Who Remains, only came alive once they activated time tech. Normally, they were just people. Their reactions were slow, and they fared poorly against a speedster. The temporal gate opened, and Leon lifted the pharaoh headdress to drag Kang out. Even then, he remained cautious, freezing time across the earth. But as he rose, something unexpected activated beneath his feet. Inside the pyramid, a spherical technological module flared blue. Time freezing shouldn't have affected its operation, but it lit up anyway. At its center, 3 rings spun, inscribed with runes reminiscent of the 10 rings. As they rotated, Leon's hand suddenly closed on empty air. "Another force using time rules has appeared," he warned. He peered down. The immobile Pharaoh Kang in his hand became an afterimage. This wasn't mere time slipping. Something more like a rewind, a save file reload, was happening. His supervision pierced the earth, and he saw the spherical module in the pyramid. The frozen Kang materialized inside it. The collar still clung to his neck, but as the rings rotated, the collar's red light snuffed out. Kang trembled and began to move again. "Oh, fuck! TVA from Sunny Beach," he barked as he came free of the freeze. "I have to get out. What the hell just happened?" Kang scrambled over the instrument panel. The tiny cabin glowed. It geared up for interworld travel. Leon frowned. Not time slipping, time rewind. His tech isn't weaker than the TVA's, but he still can't quite escape. Energy from the Infinity Stones in Leon's inner world surged into his external form. "Freeze," he commanded. The 6 stones connected and unleashed in unison, pressing down to freeze time and space across the entire universe. At that moment, the whole universe, every dimension and reality contained within it, fell silent. Previously, Leon had frozen only the Earth with his own speed and rules. Now, empowered by the 6 stones, he held power on a scale far beyond a single world. Unless it's Kang the Conqueror, no Kang should escape now, he thought. He reached toward the pyramid, and the futuristic module suddenly materialized before him. In some respects, Loki and Kang the Conqueror had a deeper mastery of time. They could overwrite old time with new across multiversal streams, but Pharaoh Kang and most variants lagged behind. Their time tech was at best comparable to the stones. Leon added a spatial lock and the craft froze in place. "Come on, come back to the TVA with me." He gripped the rings around the sphere and began to pull Kang forward. Then, an enormous, colorful blast slammed into him from a distance. Infinity Stones! Leon's pupils narrowed. He marshaled the 6 stones' energies to retaliate and tightened the temporal lock on Pharaoh Kang behind him. The attacker had also wielded 6 Infinity Stones. The energies collided in the air with a force that could have annihilated the solar system, or worse. Leon had prepared to funnel the solar system into his inner world to protect the planet, but the enemy's stone energy fanned out like a curtain and dispersed through the universe. It couldn't stand against Leon's concentrated strike. Leon's attack punched through and hit the attacker. To spare the Earth, the other side even tore open space to be flung out of the universe by the stone energy. But Leon didn't feel he'd gained the upper hand. The opponent's stone attack had lifted Leon's lock on the entire universe, including the individual hold on Kang, and that allowed Pharaoh Kang a chance to escape. All Leon ended up holding onto was a fragment of a ring. Kang and his ship dissolved into time. As expected of Kang, lots of tricks and contingencies, very powerful tech, Leon sighed. Kang himself wasn't that physically strong, but his mastery of time tech matched the stones in many ways. Though Leon had counterattacked and locked Kang down, the other Infinity Stone wielder had broken the universal freeze, and Pharaoh Kang slipped away. B-15 was right. Kang variants are slippery as loaches. And the other stones wielder doesn't look like Thanos. He's in a green robe. Probably another Kang. Colorful stone energy shimmered around Leon. He pushed the 6 stones to heighten his perception, reaching awareness that felt like stepping from 3-dimensional thought into 4 or 5 dimensions. This is going to be messy, but escaping like that won't help you. Leon hunted the temporal and spatial trail left by the fleeing Kang. When an object moves, it leaves traces. Planes leave contrails, warp ships leave gravitational ripples, and time travelers left residual temporal afterimages. By tracking them, Leon could locate Kang's position. Ordinary beings, even Thanos or Tony Stark with the stones, couldn't pull this off. But Leon had fully grasped the rules of time, space, and reality, and with the 6 stones his understanding and application of the laws were amplified to an extreme. He found Kang's escape route among countless temporal tributaries. The other Kang outside the universe seemed to be tracking the same trail. Leon's eyes grew colder. Just as he suspected, there were at least 2 Kangs cooperating. Run, better to hide in the Kang Council's headquarters. I'll follow and find every variant. He drew a finger across space and tore open a rift to the void, bursting out of the universe and chasing the temporal residue. Scores of afterimages trailed the path. Leon tore through one universe after another, splitting barrier after barrier, until he stopped outside a doomed universe bubble. So that's it, hiding in a doomed universe, he said. He remembered the Loki show. Sylvie hid in a doomed universe to avoid the TVA because no actions there would create new time branches and disturbances wouldn't register. Pharaoh Kang must have thought a doomed universe was a safe place. Maybe the Kang variant's meeting point was inside this dying reality. But when Leon peered in, he only saw Pharaoh Kang and another cloaked figure. Not the whole gathering, huh? Fine, I'll take them, and Deadpool can handle the interrogation. Everything will come out eventually. Leon tore open the barrier and dropped into the world, entering Earth using spatial rules. The 2 Kangs were gathered in the Egyptian desert. Pharaoh Kang clearly favored the sands. Leon rushed forward. Kang, you can't escape, not you or the ones backing you. He stopped mid-sentence. Pharaoh Kang lay on the ground, neck broken, utterly dead. His clothes and equipment were gone, leaving him in only his underwear. Infighting? Leon looked up at the other Kang. The figure wore a green robe, his back to Leon, and 6 infinity stones glittered on his hand. In the other hand, he held Pharaoh Kang's garb and the spherical craft. Hearing Leon's voice, the robed figure turned slowly. Beneath the hood was a menacing steel mask. You're Dr. Doom! Oh, so this was a double cross. Leon's breath hitched. The attacker who'd broken his universal freeze hadn't been another Kang at all, but Dr. Doom. How had Doom appeared in this reality, and why was he hunting Kang, stealing Kang's equipment? Leon felt his brain scramble for answers as Dr. Doom stood there, mask gleaming in the desert sun. Chapter 427, Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom stared at Leon. TVA agent, I don't have time for games. Oh, your introduction is very direct. Very Dr. Doom, Leon replied lightly. I was going to be polite, but Deadpool might be more your type. Leon floated up a little. After all, with that mask, you must be pretty hard to look at. You and Deadpool must have a lot in common. His words were deliberate provocation. Both Deadpool and Doom were famous for disfigured faces in their lore. It was a raw, humiliating wound. Leon knew the insult would sting and intended it to. From the start, he'd noticed Doom's left hand, bristling with infinity stones, was clenched almost constantly, while the other gripped Kang's equipment and a spaceship. Doom's method to unlock the stones was the same as Thanos's. Clench the fist. He'd planned to snap his fingers to break Leon's blockade. Leon had at least 9 ways to neutralize that defense, enough to force Doom to abandon any escape. Mocking appearance was low, but effective. Doom surprised him. Rather than erupting, he watched Leon with a steady, almost puzzled look. To employ someone like Deadpool, your TVA really is beyond saving. You don't seem bothered by the first insult, Leon went on, but if I said you're no match for Reed, would that bother you? Shut up, Doom roared, sudden and terrible. Anger cracked through him. The 6 stones on his gauntlet flared to life and focused into the Power Stone. He bared his fury like a weapon. How dare you mention that name in front of me? How dare you say I'm beneath that weak fool? Reed, Mr. Fantastic, was the true sore spot. Doom strode forward, the stone's light growing, his eyes burning. Leon realized something else at once. This Doom probably hadn't been disfigured yet. That explained the odd calm at the earlier insult. A handsome man wouldn't be wounded by being called ugly. He snapped when his failure against Reed was mentioned because that might be true. Enough, Leon said. Doom lashed out. The concentrated Power Stone blast struck with the force of a small sun. Leon read the limit of Doom's use of the stones. Without snapping his fingers, he couldn't unleash their absolute universe-fracturing power. Doom had focused the energy into a single devastating strike. Leon's right hand shot out. 6-colored energy, mixed, surging remnants of the stones, spooled from his body and met the blast. He took it on, steady and precise. The shockwave that followed didn't merely collide, it tore reality. Space shattered like a mirror. In an instant, both of them plummeted into the void beyond the universe. Doom screamed, his left hand trapped in Leon's grip. Leon looked him in the face. This is as far as you go. 6-colored energy streamed along Leon's arm, enveloping Doom's gauntlet and sealing the Infinity Stones completely. Doom's expression hardened. He knew from Leon's earlier displays the man was difficult. He hadn't expected the disparity to be this absurd. The only way out was another snap, but Doom was held fast. The possibility was gone. Don't even think about it, Doom ground out. Doom was a genius. He always had backups, his right hand still clasping Pharaoh Kang's ship, lit with alien runes. More of this future tech. Freeze, he barked. Leon cut off the ship with a spatial lock. You just got this tech and you're already using it. Impressive. Too bad there's no one with Infinity Stones coming to save you this time. Kang's temporal tech operated on the same tier as the Time Stone. That had been Doom's escape hatch before. Seize an instant when the universe's stasis loosened and slip away. Not now. Doom's robe parted as Leon's hand flicked across it. Hidden devices, over 30 wrist-sized instruments, clattered free. Each bore the same runic script as the spaceship. Doom had been hoarding time tech, killing Kang variants and scavenging their gear. More than 30 time devices, Leon said. So you've already killed that many Kangs. Any other tricks? Doom hesitated, then his voice dropped, oddly reverent. To save the world, I will sacrifice everything, even myself. Leon blinked. Doom's tone had shifted to something unguarded. Then a vast, alien energy began to gather, pouring into Doom from multiple dimensions. The auras were wrong, dark and familiar. Mephisto, Satanish, Dormammu. Leon recognized the signatures immediately. You bargain with demons too, he said. Borrowed power from other realms. Doom's eyes flashed. He had always blended sorcery and science. But the sheer volume of energy he was summoning should have torn a lesser mind apart. It's useless, Leon added. I can cut the source. He raised a hand. All spells end. The words, simple absolute, rippled through the void. The torrents of otherworldly power that had been pouring into Doom's body stuttered and then evaporated, dissipating into nothing. Doom went pale. The magic that had felt inexhaustible was suddenly severed. For perhaps the first time since he began studying the occult, Doom saw a technique that stripped his borrowed energies away as if they had never existed. Leon's voice was calm when he spoke again. If you've got anything left, show me. Doom said nothing. Leon's eyes glinted red. He had the Mind Stone and the anti-life equation. Even Doom's famously iron will faltered the moment Leon infiltrated his thoughts. With a mental illusion, Leon slipped into Doom's consciousness. The dictator's gaze went vacant, and his memories unspooled like confessions. Invisible Woman Sue, Reed Richards, Galactus sweeping down, the world ruined. Each memory was a scar, a litany of losses Doom had endured. He told the whole story without restraint. The Fantastic Four's world had been destroyed, his homeland gone. Doom had seen that world end and believed the multiverse would follow, one universe at a time. He hunted Kang variants to seize their temporal technology so he could prevent those tragedies, so he could save every world from the fate that befell his own. Leon listened and summarized the confession. Doom's first step toward greater strength had been killing Kang variants and harvesting their tech. His motive was not simple conquest, but a desperate, obsessive attempt to stop annihilation. Chapter 428, Dr. Doom with Tony's face. It seems he wasn't lying after all. Leon was stunned. He had misjudged someone he thought was a villain. Dr. Doom's reputation had always been mixed, mostly villainous, so Leon had assumed the man before him was another threat. Doom had attacked and shown no mercy. Who would expect him to be on the side of justice? Leon paused to think. What if I bring him to the TVA and introduce him to B-15? I think they'll both get what they need. He considered his next moves. First, casually, Leon plucked the 6 Infinity Stones from Doom's hand and confiscated all his time travel devices. Then he lifted the illusionary control and the spatial confinement he had placed on him. Doom's consciousness cleared rapidly. He was bewildered at first, then, seeing Leon, the look beneath his cold mask snapped to something else. What did you do to me? From Doom's perspective, it was like reliving the arrival of Galactus. Leon coughed lightly. Nothing major, just checking your condition. You just snapped your fingers earlier and broke through my universal barrier, Doom growled. And you really used the Power Stone recklessly. Even someone like Doom would feel the backlash of the Infinity Stones. I helped you with a little treatment. Leon glanced down and, through Doom's sleeve, saw purplish-black burn marks crawling up his arm and across his body. The high-intensity use of the Infinity Stones had nearly cost him his life. Leon realized this version of Doom had been risking everything to find a way to save the multiverse. He produced a bottle and handed it over. Drink this. What is this? Doom's voice remained deep. He'd already noticed his Infinity Stones and time tech were gone. His self-forged armor still clung to him, but against this TVA employee, he had no advantage. A recovery tonic, Leon said. Doom stared at him for a few seconds, weighing his options. He didn't have one. Slowly, he removed the cold steel mask and downed the Zeus spring water in one gulp. A vast life force flooded through him, spreading quickly. Warmth enveloped him like a hot spring. He widened his eyes. This life force, the damage from using magic, and the stones is completely healing, and my physical attributes are improving. Zeus spring water increased lifespan, physical attributes, and even innate talent. Its effects were usually gradual, months or years of subtle improvement, which was why most people who drank it never noticed anything immediately. The exception had been Aunt Carter, who had noticeably grown younger and stronger. Now Doom felt the changes acutely. His insight and talent were high enough that even the slow infusion had immediate effects. You gave me this for free? Thank you. Doom knew what he'd gained. His hostility toward Leon eased, but he didn't gush. He simply looked at Leon and quietly expressed his thanks. Leon, however, was looking at him oddly. What's wrong? Doom asked. Are you called Tony Stark? Leon couldn't believe it. With the mask off, Doom's face was unmistakably like that old man back home. Sparkling eyes, arrogant expression. Parallel universe Tonys could become Dr. Doom? The idea made a strange kind of sense. Doom combined tremendous science and magic talent, and Tony Stark's abilities in those fields were similarly prodigious. Yet the thought of having just fought a Tony who wielded the Infinity Stones made Leon feel odd. Doom's expression darkened. I am not that man. My name is Doom. No? Leon hesitated. They looked so similar, but he wasn't Tony. It was like Captain America and the Human Torch, counterparts in different worlds. Leon wanted to ask more, but Doom clearly didn't want to recount his past. In most comics, Doom was Victor Von Doom, and Leon let the name stand. Doom, then, come with me. I'll take you to the TVA. Doom's eyes sharpened. Leon hurried to explain. This isn't an arrest. Think of it as an introduction. Aren't you trying to save the multiverse? Talking to them will get you more information. Doom looked ready to refuse, but the last part silenced him. Very well, let's go. Leon opened a TVA time-space portal and walked through with Doom. TVA Command Center. Thanos' corpse and the scattered Infinity Gauntlets had already been cleared away. B-15 was waiting at the screen. When she saw Leon, she stepped forward. "Thank you for your help, Superman. You helped us solve one of our biggest problems in a long time." At the TVA, you could observe events across worlds and times. When Leon pursued Pharaoh Kang, he hadn't hidden anything, so the TVA had witnessed the breach as well. B-15 had seen only the moment Leon and Doom broke through the dimensions and entered the void beyond the universe. What happened next was unclear to her. She took one look at Doom and recognized him immediately. "Wait, Tony Stark? No, you're Doom from the universe that was just destroyed." "So it was you who kept us from apprehending Kang," she accused. "Not merely apprehending," Doom corrected. "I hunted them." Doom frowned, glanced at Leon, and then addressed B-15 with a patient respect. "Each Kang variant is a tumor on the multiverse. I hunted them to prevent catastrophes like the one that destroyed my world." B-15 blinked. "You hunted them? The Kangs who escaped us? They were killed by you?" "Everyone," Doom confirmed. "Incredible. How did you do it? Even Deadpool and Spider-Man together would struggle to catch those people," B-15 said, awed. "With power and will," Doom replied with a tone that was as much solemn as it was grave. B-15 had no real answer to that, but she was impressed. If someone like him joined the TVA, the Council of Kangs might no longer be an insurmountable problem. "You were brought here by," she began, then caught herself and looked at Leon. "Invited?" "I didn't arrest him," Leon said. "I invited him." "Right. Then consider it an invitation. Since you hunt the Council of Kangs as well, our goals align." B-15 clasped her hands behind her back and extended an invitation. "Join the TVA. Your universe is gone. We share the same aim, to protect more universes and prevent that fate." Doom thought a moment, then nodded. "I will join temporarily. If our goals diverge, I will leave." B-15 smiled confidently. "As long as your intentions remain the same, I believe we can work together to protect the multiverse." After reaching an agreement, Doom looked coldly at Leon. Leon understood the look. "Here, your equipment and spoils." He produced Doom's Infinity Stones, dozens of time devices, and the hull of Pharaoh Kang's ship. A pile of strange metals and technology lay on the floor, glittering. B-15's eyes widened. "What the hell? All of this is Dr. Doom's?" Doom didn't answer. He simply re-equipped himself in silence. Leon shrugged. "He took on dozens of Kang variants. These are his spoils." B-15's eyes shone at the thought of having such a talent on their side. "I'll go ahead and process this," she said. Doom finished gathering his gear and hauling the hull of the ship, prepared to leave. His battlesuit combined magic and technology, an exoskeleton that could grant him the strength to lift the ship even within the TVA's anti-magic environment. "Wait, you'll need a place to stay. Why not live at the TVA? Someone will assign you quarters and employee equipment," B-15 urged. Doom considered it and then nodded. "I will remain here for now." He looked at Leon. "Thank you for the tonic. I haven't asked your name." "Call me Leon." Leon took out his time pad. "Also, I'm not a TVA employee. Good luck on your first day, TVA Agent Doom." Leon opened a portal to leave. "Next time there's a big crisis, find me." "Oh, are you two going to Tony's wedding?" "Iron Man's wedding? No thanks," B-15 said. "But when it's your wedding, Superman, all TVA employees will definitely be there." Doom flatly refused. "I do not know him." "That's a pity. See you later." Leon stepped into the portal. He didn't realize how often he would remember this day. Despite the crisis with Thanos and the trouble with Kang, the multiverse felt oddly calm afterward. Tony's wedding was warm and joyful, and when Leon first met Doom, the man had not yet become the ruler of Battleworld. Everyone stood on common ground against a shared threat. When Leon came back, he purposely chose a later hour. He had gone out in the afternoon to collect the Infinity Stones. Now it was evening. The wedding in Central Park had been going on all day. From morning till now, the sunset had dyed the trees red. The party was non-stop. People kept arriving. When seats ran out, they stood on the grass, clutching glasses of wine and shouting their blessings from a distance. On the stage, dancers performed. There had been an opening act in the morning. Now, as the ceremony wound down, there was a finale. A drunken Thor was lumbering through a clumsy, comical dance, swinging Mjolnir about. Beside him, Loki, dressed in a dark green suit, sang an Asgardian song. The two of them had put together an act as the curtain call. Thor's drunken antics had forced a very professional smile onto Loki's face. Leon found Tony at the head table, squeezed in, and sat down. "Hey, Leon, you're finally back." Peter, Holland's Spider-Man, greeted him, startled. He'd been sitting right next to Tony, and his spider sense had picked Leon up first. "You got all the Infinity Stones? Then we can, after Mr. Stark's wedding, we'll go deal with Thanos." Peter had changed out of his suit into a black one with white trim. He'd been drinking. His cheeks were a little flushed. He looked like someone who'd finally been able to attend the wedding he missed in the original timeline, and the small pleasure of that made him glow. Watching Thor and Loki's uncoordinated finale had him overjoyed. He didn't just get the Infinity Stones, Tony said from the side. He glanced at Leon and tried to look casual, but everyone there knew his stubbornness. Leon, who understood Tony better than anyone, already guessed what was behind the look. Curiosity, maybe concern, maybe the itch to fight Thanos himself. But Leon didn't go into details. He picked up a bottle of red wine, poured himself a glass, and said, "That's right, and because I left one annoying supporting character out of the mix, the fight went surprisingly smoothly." "Really?" Peter looked incredulous. "You already fixed the Thanos problem?" "Yes," Leon nodded to Peter. "I found the first Thanos. The rest, well, they came after him." He watched Thor and Loki finish their bit on stage as he talked, slowly recounting how he dealt with Thanos. Tony pretended to be aloof but was pricking up every ear. By the time Leon finished, Thor and Loki were being pulled off the stage, and Tony and Pepper were going up for the final thank yous. "Peter," Tony stood, straightening his lapel, "next time you run into Thanos, come find me. The anti-Superman armor is no weaker than the real thing." He stepped onto the stage with Pepper, taking her hand. "For the last few minutes of today, I want to make one conclusion." His voice, amplified, filled the park. "I've actually done two things in my life that, at the time, I judged to have less than a 1% chance of success. One was in a cave, building an arc reactor with my bare hands and putting it into my chest without killing myself. Because it didn't kill me, I became Iron Man and built these suits." As he spoke, dozens of suits of armor streaked across the sky like meteors and landed gently on the stage, more than 30 models, all different, all built by Tony over the years. Leading them came a bright pink Mark I, exactly the one Leon had spray-painted as a prank. The chest plate still bore the childish inscription, "Tony has a pink heart." Leon was a little stunned. Tony had said years ago he'd have Jarvis repaint it. He hadn't expected that Tony had kept it exactly as it was. The Mark I looked well cared for, smooth and shiny. Tony's hypocrisy amused Leon. "And the second thing I did, which also looked impossible," Tony went on, pointing at Pepper, "was decide and ask this woman beside me, who could probably take apart all my suits with her bare hands, to marry me." Laughter and warm applause rolled through the crowd. People thought Tony was elevating Pepper's status as a show of humility. Only those who knew them well understood that he meant it completely. "You can't imagine how hard that decision was," Tony said. "But now," he raised Pepper's hand, "I know I'll never regret it." The applause swelled and went on for a long time. With Tony and Pepper's thank yous, the wedding drew to a close. Guests dispersed. The Avengers left last. Leon handed the 2 time tablets back to Peter. "Do me a favor," he said. "Return Deadpool's tablet and tell him to stop pestering Jarvis." Peter's smile shifted into a look for Jarvis. He took the tablets, eyebrows drooping, and slipped back into the main universe. Tony, in one of his armors, flew up into the clouds with Pepper. As they vanished, Wanda grabbed Leon's arm. "Is there something else you haven't told me?" she asked. "Tell you what," Leon answered lightly. "Come on, we'll talk on the way back. We'll turn off the lights and talk slowly." A few days later, inside Leon's inner world, his Legitio clone floated high in the sky, his form swelling with a terrifying, tide-like light. Pure radiance layered itself through the world so thoroughly the inner landscape expanded wildly. At a certain point, the light converged, and the magnificent godlike aura that had been pouring from the clone suddenly took on something more focused and mysterious. Leon guided the body down slowly. This feedback was huge, he thought. It took days to fully assimilate. 24 Thanoses, each bent on destroying a universe and severing timelines. Solving them was equivalent to saving 24 separate universes. Each one left a power feedback, each a bit weaker than true cosmic level. Leon felt the change. 24 powers layered together had boosted his clone to near the peak levels he'd had when his main body used the Infinity Stones. Now a thought could let his Ultraman-like psychic power fill an entire universe. With a snap of the will, he could alter the operation of an entire cosmos. Destroying a universe would, if he chose, be easy. The clone's power was only slightly below the level his main body had reached with the Infinity Stones, already supercosmic. My main body, without the stones, is still only a world lord, stellar system level, he mused. So how huge is the gap between a stellar system and a single universe? He tried to put it in numbers. Expressed in decimal multiples, the difference puts at least 33 zeros after the 1. He thought about how, in this setting, a single Marvel universe has a finite volume, though Celestials keep creating suns so it expands slowly, and appreciated how strange the power system here truly was. He wondered if the force of an abstract entity could be exported to other universes. On impulse, he sent the Legeduo clone across realities. The clone's massive body appeared in the starry skies of the Ultraman universe, power pooling in him like an ocean. Here I'm not an abstract entity anymore, he noted, but the power hasn't changed. It's still supercosmic. It turned out the clone could cross universes independently, and the consciousness remained linked to Leon's main mind. Maintaining that cross-universe connection cost energy, but the mind was continuous. A figure appeared then, the original Legeduo. His 60-meter frame, so titanic back home, now seemed almost small beside Leon's vast clone. Legeduo looked him over, said nothing, gave a slow thumbs up, and vanished without a word. Legeduo, Leon thought, a hint of respect in his mind. In the Ultraman universe, Legeduo's power ranged between supercosmic and multicosmic. He could feel Legeduo's surprise at how quickly Leon had grown, and more importantly, the way Leon had strengthened by aligning with concepts of justice and order. That fit with how he'd promised to use Legeduo's power, to practice justice, not to abuse it. In fact, he'd hardly drawn on Legeduo's strength directly. He didn't seek Legeduo out further. He returned the clone to Marvel with his traversing ability still active. Now that I've crossed the single-universe threshold, I can feel I've become a true abstract entity, he thought. It was time to test that. The brightness in his huge inner eyes sharpened. The Legeduo clone's body began to waver, becoming partially illusory. An abstract entity can either embody a concept or condense into a tangible form. Leon remembered eternity, hovering between the unreal and the real, and he now walked into that same in-between. When an abstract entity adopts a conceptual state, he considered, it becomes immune to ordinary physical and energy attacks. Only attacks that carry rules, powers that affect concepts, can wound them. If they take on a physical form to fight, then all bets are off. Chapter 430, Abstract Entities. Leon took control of his body, gradually turning ethereal, becoming the very concept of himself. The enormous Legeduo clone slowly grew transparent, dissolving into motes of light that dispersed into his inner world. As that happened, Leon's consciousness began to expand without bounds. He became part of the universe itself. He felt the motion of trillions of stars, watched planets turn, and perceived the workings of time, space, and mind. Every law was crystal clear. He only had to will it, and he could manipulate the rules of that universe. Even the soul law, which he had not yet fully grasped, could be used at will. Leon realized this was another form of omnipotence, limited to a single universe, but omnipotence nonetheless. He marveled. Strengthening, he understood now, was really a slow movement toward omniscience and omnipotence. Some paths to power first grant perfect knowledge, and with that knowledge produce omnipotence, the starry sky system being an example. The Legeduo clone had taken the opposite route, first omnipotence, then an easier path to omniscience. Before, he had thought it would take 2 or 3 more years to comprehend the remaining laws of mind, power, and soul. Now he knew it would take only a few weeks, weeks measured in unaccelerated time. Inside Leon's inner world, the time stone still ran 1,000-fold time acceleration. The past 2.5 years had felt like 2,500 years of cultivation to him. Very good, he thought. Just a few more weeks, and I can break through to immortality. He was celebrating when a presence pushed gently at the edge of his expanded awareness. It was a thought from a higher, mysterious dimension of the universe. Lion, come here. I'll introduce Death and the others to you. Eternity's voice. Lion smiled and accepted. He re-solidified the Rejay Duo clone into a physical form, no longer needing Eternity to open a portal for him. He reached with thought through the universe, found the mysterious space at the center of the world, stepped through layers of barriers, and arrived before Eternity. The scene was the same clear sky and transparent water as before, but there were many more figures now. As Lion's gaze swept the assembly, he recognized each as a conceptual entity. The four great abstract beings, the four pillars of the cosmic compass, stood prominent: eternity, infinity, death, and oblivion. Nearby were the concepts of balance, Lord Chaos and Lord Order, the eternal seven children, love, abomination, and others. None of these figures seemed stronger than Leon in his current state. That was deceptive. The other entities were present as clones, embodies. Lion himself stood there as his true abstract entity form. Eternity, long time no see, Leon said, shrinking from his 90,000-kilometer form down to the same scale as Eternity. You've grown far faster than I expected, Eternity replied. You're already stronger than this embody of mine. Eternity stooped, one hand like the universe itself, pointing at Lion. Lion, everyone, meet Lion Stark, your new brother-uncle. He introduced each of the abstract concepts in turn. The Eternal's seven children were delighted to have a new uncle and greeted Lion enthusiastically. Oblivion, wrapped in a tattered robe and hood, barely nodded. Eternity explained that Oblivion preferred passivity and spoke little. Death, however, spoke more freely. She wore a hooded cloak and had assumed a female form, though her exposed face and limbs were skeletal, and two green flames burned in the sockets of her empty skull. Leon noted the contrast of her voluptuous stance and skeletal features and thought it would take a very special taste to find her attractive, possibly people like Thanos or Deadpool. You were once a creature of Earth, weren't you? Death asked pleasantly. Yes, Lion nodded. Earth creatures are so endearing, Death said. Do you know Agatha? She's very cute. We had a pleasant time once. Death chuckled. She loved to drain all kinds of energy. A few hundred years ago, I even let her drain me. Unfortunately, she was afraid of death and refused. A black line of confusion appeared across Lion's brow. If Agatha had drained Death, wouldn't she be dead? But Death's words hinted at some strange connection, someone who could fall in love with Death. Lion forced a dry laugh. That's a shame, he said. By the way, if you see Agatha, could you send her to visit me, if convenient? Send her to see you? Lion added in a small voice, sweating at the implication. How does one invite death without actually dying? If she visits, thank me in advance, Death said with a grin. And since it's our first meeting, I have no gift, only this. If you need anything, come to me. Lion's heart stirred. Death, do you hold the souls of my adoptive parents and Wanda's parents? Of course, Death smiled. Howard was an amusing fellow. He always made me laugh. Lion blinked. Howard had been lively when young, similar to Tony. Perhaps his true nature showed more in Death. Lion straightened. I want their souls back. I'd like to resurrect them soon. Oh, Death hesitated, then allowed a soft smile. Reluctantly, if they are truly your kin, I will give them to you. When you're ready for the resurrection, call on me. I understand. Lion felt a lift inside him. Tony would be pleased. Lion himself had been only a year old when the accident claimed his adoptive parents. He had visited their graves every year, always grateful. Without their adoption, his life in Marvel might have been very different. Then Lion asked, somewhat awkwardly, Have you all been watching me secretly? Several of the abstract entities looked away at once, pretending to be busy. Lion smirked at the flustered peeping. So you were curious about other worlds? Eternity laughed softly. Even here, we can know almost everything in a universe. After aeons, it becomes dull. You, however, can travel to other worlds. That's interesting. Lion nodded. He could detect the small, furtive attentions now that he had this perspective. The elders who had lived longer than the universe itself couldn't be as secretive as they pretended. Speaking of other universes, Lion reached out, his arms spanning countless light years in thought. From within his Earth body's inner world, he drew a handful of curiosities from the starry sky world, little treasures he'd collected. He offered them to the assembled entities. They were not overwhelmingly powerful artifacts. Their might at most matched a star system, but the law patterns etched into them, derived from the starry sky world, fascinated the abstract beings. A cloud, a cloak, a long saber, each bore unusual secret inscriptions. This saber is engraved with fire and space rules, someone marveled. Etching laws into weapons is somewhat like the Infinity Stones. These rules are different from ours. If enough of them were gathered, you might open another multiverse here. Infinity turned the teapot-like treasure in her hands, her orange-yellow skin covered in mysterious swirls. Lion, when will you return to that world? She asked. Why don't you learn its rules thoroughly and come back to create a universe? Eternity and I could share splinters of our universe with you. Then you could taste a different world's splendor. Infinity and eternity were two sides of the same coin. She and eternity could even merge. Lion was tempted, but uncertain. It could be many years, he said. How many? 10 billion years. Infinity teased. Not that long. At most a little over 10 years. Lion realized his sense of time differed wildly from theirs. That's barely the blink of an eye, Infinity smiled. Keep at it, Lion. We'll be waiting. The other entities who had received gifts offered encouragement as well. Even among abstract beings, consciousness brought emotion and social niceties. Only oblivion remained untouched and aloof. After Lion finished chatting and getting acquainted, Eternity waved a hand. Among abstract entities, one can sense each other when summoned. Since you've met a new companion, you may leave. Leon, you have become a true conceptual entity, so you can now condense and embody for yourself, Eternity added. Remember what we said last time. The crisis in the multiverse still brews. You should keep strengthening through your embody. Is the crisis still there? Lion asked, surprised. He had thought Kang's variants were the trouble, and that Dr. Doom joining the TVA might have put things to rest. Eternity's tone held its weight. It remains. Grow stronger. With those words, Lion bade farewell to the abstract entities and left the dimension where Eternity dwelled, his mind already calculating the weeks of accelerated comprehension and the many paths ahead. Chapter 431, Address given by Dormammu. 2 weeks had passed since Legieduo returned to Earth. On that day, the silent darkness beyond the solar system rippled. Countless firefly-sized motes of light condensed from the formless void and quickly coalesced into Legieduo's vast silver-blue form. 2 weeks, and I've fully grasped the rules tied to the remaining 3 Infinity Stones. Legieduo murmured as he looked at the faint glow of the solar system. By transforming into a concept and integrating with the universe, he had compressed what would normally take 2 to 3 millennia into a fortnight. Time, space, reality, soul, mind, power. His pupils reflected a universe that was constantly collapsing and expanding. His left fingertip traced invisible topologies in the void. With each word he spoke, the corresponding hue of a rule unfurled beside him: spatial warping, temporal reversal, reality alteration. The universe was born in the Big Bang on these 6 pillars. They form its framework. But under that framework are even deeper source rules: eternity, infinity, death, annihilation. Legio continued. So those 4 abstract entities are also operational laws of a universe. They are its core. He understood the path for his starry sky system now. The 6 gem rules were like the chaotic fusion of the starry sky world's 10 great rules, serving as the universe's scaffolding, while concepts such as eternity and infinity corresponded to the starry sky world's source rules of life and destruction, the core of a universe. In the starry sky world, mastering a source rule allows one to reach the limit of a source world, the peak of a multiverse, a transcendent single universe level, divine king ultimate realm. Under the starry sky system, fully comprehending a concept like eternity in Marvel could likewise yield transcendent single universe strength. But my current Reg Duo clone already possesses transcendent single universe power. By the time my starry sky system reaches that stage, Legieduo might be far stronger. Possessing power beyond a single universe counted as transcendent single universe. However, unless one could simultaneously affect the entire multiverse, even the strength of hundreds of millions of universes still fell under that label. Compared with the cheat-like rapid growth of the Reg Duo clone, the starry sky system was slower. Still, the true value of the starry sky system lies in helping me understand the world and in enhancing my Kryptonian genes. I must keep going. Time to break through to immortality, he decided. Duo slowly flew toward the solar system. After covering several light years, his form resolved into a pure beam of light and merged into the inner world of his main body on Earth. His Superman form opened his eyes on a balcony. To break through to immortality, I need an unclaimed dimensional fragment prepared in advance. The contract I signed with Dormammu earlier will finally be useful. He cast a spell, sending his consciousness across dimensions and into the dark dimension. The landscape was the same sunless, alien terrain. Hundreds of millions of purplish-black planetary remnants floated in a viscous sea of dark energy. Eroded, honeycombed cores spewed sulfurous vapors. A ruined gas giant slowly collapsed nearby. The chaos extended to the horizon. No signs of life, yet Duo seemed to hear the dying wails of countless beings. He wondered if Dormammu's violent nature came partly from spending eons in such a place. Dormammu, long time no see, Duo said with his mind. Dormammu stirred. Time meant little in the dark dimension. He spent much of his existence in a slumber. Now he looked more than sleepy, worn, his fiery pumpkin head slightly shriveled. "Who is calling me?" Dormammu asked, still groggy. Normally, those who borrowed his power couldn't communicate with him, and even worshippers sacrificing entire planets could not call him by name. The dark dimension shuddered as Dormammu pushed his vast energy form through the tides. Towering waves of dark energy swept the realm, smashing apart planetary remnants. "It's you!" Dormammu's body ignited in terrible magic fire. As an energy being from the Faltine dimension, commanding flame was instinctive. His dark purple flames deepened with fury. "You, Sorcerer Supreme, how dare you invade the dark dimension? Very well, very well. This time it's my turn," Dormammu snarled. "I'm just a consciousness. What can you do to me?" Duo's tone was flat. "What? Just a consciousness? Get out!" Dormammu gathered dark energy to drown him. "Dormammu, I'm here to demand you honor our contract. Do you want to break it and have your authority claimed by the Vishanti?" Duo allowed the energy to wash over him. The energy tide stilled at once. Dormammu's expression blackened. "They can't take my authority. I don't fear them." The indignation made him almost petulant. Time meant nothing here, whereas Duo on Earth had merely siphoned a little dark energy each day. To Dormammu, it might have looked like a parasite sucking endlessly. "Did you forget? We agreed on 3 conditions. You promised to tell me about any unclaimed dimensions until I found one," Duo reminded him. "Unclaimed dimensions," Dormammu repeated, tasting the word. The flames on his head flickered. "I can tell you, but after that, our contract is finished." "No, you still have to lend energy to Kamartaj for free." "You don't need to remind me," Dormammu snapped. "Aside from that, the other 2 are over." Flames flared. "Good, but since you're so honest, don't plan anything malicious, otherwise you'll regret it. Don't say I didn't warn you." Duo read the ill intent in Dormammu's flickering flames. The Faltine's emotions were worn openly on that infernal crown. They both had knives behind their backs. If Dormammu didn't draw his first, then Duo wouldn't be comfortable making the first move. "Humph, here are the coordinates of the unclaimed dimension you want. Take it and get out of my realm." Dormammu wrapped the information in a ball of dark energy and shoved it at Duo. A surge of energy then expelled Duo from the dark dimension. Back on Earth, Duo traced a string of coordinates with golden energy across the balcony air. This location is in the realm of Split, so Dormammu really does have ill intentions." He smiled. The realm of Split sat outside the Earth dimension. Under the Marvel Multiverse's ordering, all dimensions center on the Earth dimension and extend outward in layers, half scientific, half magical. From a magical perspective, the Earth dimension is like a yoke at the core, wrapped by layers that are tightly distinct from one another. The inner dimensions, the outer dimensions, the realm of Split, the faraway realms, and the unknown realms, 5 layers in all. Inner dimensions include places like Asgard and Jotunheim, reachable even by starship. Outer dimensions, however, require magic to access. There, the usual rules of physics, time, and space are weakened or abolished. Many entire universes exist in the outer dimensions, each usually ruled by a master who can define the laws there, most of them possessing multiverse-level power. The Crimson Cosmos, the energy source behind the Setorak Crimson Band's Leje duo once used, lies in the outer dimensions and sets its own rules. Beyond that lies the realm of Split, where many inhabitants dwell. Dormammu's dark dimension, the Vishanti's domains, various hells. The coordinates Dormammu gave pointed to the realm of Split. If it were a truly ordinary unclaimed dimension, Dormammu would have absorbed it long ago. His confidence suggested it really was unclaimed, but there was a trap. A trap could be useful. It gave Legiduo an excuse to deal with Dormammu further. Even if something's wrong, I'll go check it out, Legiduo decided. And if this is a trap, I'll find an unclaimed dimension for myself. He mass-messaged friends to say he was leaving Earth for a few days, then shot into the sky. His casual clothes shimmered into a battle suit like flowing water. In the cosmic void, he swung a hand and used the space rule to rope in the dimensional barrier and enter the outer dimensions. Compared to the Earth dimension, the outer dimensions felt emptier, not in size, but in signs of life. He continued pushing outward into the realm of Split. These layers enclosed most of what the cinematic multiverse considered Earth-centered. Normally, Legiduo didn't find crossing parallel worlds so arduous, but in the realm of Split, it was difficult to sense coherent rule operation. Even the Infinity Stones were far less effective here. Each realm often had its own power system. The rules were set by the strong and enforced upon the weak. In a dimension governed by a master, if that master wanted an apple to fall upward, the apple would obey. Chapter 432. Jong Alisum has no regrets in his life. Without spatial rules, it's hard to even tell directions. Let me see which way the address is. Leon switched bodies. His main body slipped into his inner world, while a Legiduo clone remained outside. His transcendent-level ultra-thought power unfurled, sweeping grandly across the realm of Split. Most of this place was void. Only a few pocket dimensions were occupied. A Hell Lord even emerged to issue a warning to Leon, but faced with Leon's overwhelming thought power, the Lord, reluctant to start a war, kept his threats verbal. Leon ignored them as mere croaks. As he scanned another dimension, an awareness suddenly reached out and made contact. "Leon, you've come to the realm of Split too?" The voice sounded pleasantly surprised. Leon paused, surprised in turn. "Tiamat, what are you doing here?" Tiamat's awareness replied, "Our team is here searching for Galactus's daughter. Galactus has gone to devour Earth again, and only his daughter can persuade him to stop." "Leon, I'm coming to find you. Wait a moment." Leon grew even more surprised. The Celestials weren't just refraining from planting life on Earth, they were actively trying to stop Galactus from devouring it. In Leon's previous life, Galactus had often been grouped by fans with the cosmic abstracts, called one of the 5 great creator gods, but he was not an abstract concept. He was a cosmic entity of insatiable hunger, composed of cosmic energy, who had to devour planets to feed. When too hungry, he was weakened. Many defeats in the comics had come from that flaw. Leon thought his world power could supply Galactus with the energy he needed. Surprisingly, Galactus might be one of the easier gods to deal with, aside from eternity. Soon, Tiamat flew before Leon, tiny and bouncing, waving his hands before Leon's bulb-like eyes like a delighted hamster. "We meet again, Leon. Long time no see. For me, it's only been 2.5 years. For you to say that, you must have spent a lot of time in other universes," Leon said, looking down at the Celestial. "It's been several millennia. Our Celestial team has been moving other versions of ourselves off Earth all this time," Tiamat complained. "Although I love that planet, being its porter for millennia is a bit boring." "So you were slacking off, not working seriously," Leon teased. "What do you mean? Arisham the Judge and the others can definitely find Galactus's daughter. They don't need me," Tiamat waved him off. "Especially Arisham. He's the judge, the most serious and strict." The name made Leon's ultra-great eyes brighten. "Arisham is here too? Well, you are a team. Can you contact him? Take me to him." "I can, but what do you want to do?" Tiamat, held in Leon's palm, sounded utterly bewildered. Leon clenched his fist. "There's an old saying on Earth. If you provoke the abbot, do you think you can just walk away?" He still felt the sting of being injured by Arisham before, when his Dormammu battlesuit had been shattered. It was the first time he had been unilaterally hurt in a fight. He couldn't help it. After so many years with Tony, he'd picked up some bad habits. At the thought of Arisham, he could not help but rub his hands together. Tiamat pointed a direction, and Leon transformed into light, streaking across the void. Soon, Arisham the judge appeared, traveling alone and moving rapidly toward a particular dimension, hardly slacking, just as Tiamat had said. Arisham the judge, wait, there's a mosquito on your face. A familiar, deeply memorable voice slipped into Arisham's mind. He paused, slowed, and before he could place who was behind him, a giant silver hand loomed and slapped. Whoosh, Arisham was sent spinning by an ultra palm strike, his head dizzy as he turned dozens of times through space. The palm strike carried universe-destroying force. It took Arisham a moment to recover. He stared with his 6 eyes at Leon. You? Huh? Is it you, Your Excellency? Why did you attack me? Arisham covered one side of his helmet, surprised. What attack? Leon sounded puzzled. I thought I saw a dimensional tapeworm on your face and got anxious, so I helped. Sorry. Leon set Tiamat down and, wearing the face of Leiji Duo, struck a grand, righteous pose. I didn't expect it to be a false alarm. What a pity. So that's it, a pity? Arisham muttered, still dazed by the pain. He remembered when this newly born abstract entity had been powerless, and he had shown basic respect then. Now the abstract had grown noticeably stronger, but a prickle ran through Arisham, an urge to leave the area as quickly as possible. Your Excellency, our team has an urgent mission. Thank you, but I must go. He turned away as if to depart. Tiamat, come with me. Tiamat nodded, but retreated instead. Having been on Earth so long, he didn't know what petty abbot meant, but he sensed ill intent. Leon immediately blocked Arisham's path. Arisham, after a few years, you've become careless. You couldn't even dodge a sudden attack. How can this be? You are the judge, the face of the Celestials and of eternity. It just so happens I've gotten a bit stronger these past few years. Come, let's exchange pointers. Consider it a reminder. Leon sounded magnanimous. Arisham felt it was inappropriate. He thought Leon might be serious. If it was Dormammu who attacked you, would you still call this inappropriate? But Dormammu outside the dark dimension. What but? If there's no Dormammu, can't there be an eye demon? Arisham fell silent, clenching his fist. Then, very well, Your Excellency. Don't blame me. Leon ignored blame and launched a kick with 10,000-fold force. Arisham bent beneath the impact and fell. Leon's power had been amplified by 10,000 times from the inheritance steps in the space-time fortress. Nominally, he had the power of 24 universes, but multiplied, it meant he could exert a force equivalent to 240,000 universes. After 2.5 years, could Arisham withstand this? No, Arisham could not. Yet he survived. The Celestial's armor had immense defensive capabilities, able to remain intact through a big bang, and Arisham's crimson armor had absorbed most of the damage, now shattered and revealing his battered body underneath. His injuries, however, recovered quickly as Leon extended a hand and used Legiduo's healing on him. Arisham rose, armor repairing from cosmic energy, shock and disbelief etched on his face. Your Excellency, your strength. What strength? This is the result of your carelessness. Now attack me with everything you have. Don't worry, I'll only defend, not strike first, Leon declared. Arisham's heart trembled. Before, he had kept a cold demeanor toward the fledgling abstract, trusting his superior power. Now he could only nod. Understood. Leon's promise seemed trustworthy. After all, the words of an abstract entity carried weight. Arisham breathed a little easier, though a subtle thirst for revenge had crept in. He gathered cosmic energy in both palms and warned, "Please, be careful." A red energy flared in Arisham's hands and lanced outward across several light years. He truly was going all out. This attack had Big Bang-level power. He released the beam toward Leon, feeling a guilty satisfaction at the thought of exacting revenge. Good, very good, Leon grinned. He had said he wouldn't initiate attacks, but defense included countermeasures. The Legiduo clone raised both hands diagonally upward. Power of Aurora! Legiduo used the power of Aurora. It wasn't an active attack, but a passive skill. He could absorb and amplify an incoming energy attack with his arm and return it to the sender. Arisham watched in disbelief as the crimson beam struck Leon and was swallowed completely by his arm. The clone's body shimmered with the same red light. In an instant, the absorbed energy reconverged and was amplified 10,000-fold. Then it rebounded from the clone's arm. Rebound! Arisham's horror was palpable, so not initiating still meant recoil? He couldn't even block physical attacks now. His own crimson attack, super amplified, was coming straight back at him. What could stop it? Oa's donut? The joke landed painfully flat. As the amplified energy bore down, the Celestial felt an overwhelming detachment from cosmic order, from the Celestials. Everything blurred. Death pressed close like never before. Even during past high-level meetings, he had never been this close to annihilation. Wrapped in the aftermath of his own super-amplified strike, that was all he could think. This could be the end. Chapter 4 and 33, Dormammu's Scheme. Leon, try to be gentle when you strike. Oh, it seems it's already too late. Tiamut slapped his forehead and sighed through his fingers. Crimson energy had erupted when Leon hit Arisham the Judge. The aftershock spread like a tidal wave. High-energy particle streams fanned outward without end, and the core of the realm of Split began to fracture. The commotion drew the attention of many abstract entities. Few of them fought in the realm of Split's void. Conflict here had little meaning. Battles were waged within dimensions, aimed at invasion or defense. The energy Leon reflected and amplified was so immense it took a long time to subside. Only when Leon reached out and, using the power of the Aurora, reabsorbed the scattered energy did the terrifying dimensional explosion finally dissipate. In the torn void, Arisham the Judge lay curled up, no longer even remotely humanoid. "Oh, Leon, you're surprisingly merciful with Arisham," Tiamut exclaimed, floating beside him. "You even held back." Many abstract entities had little patience for anything less than annihilation. Tiamut had expected Arisham to die today. Unexpectedly, Leon had pulled some energy back at the last moment. "I was only checking his strength. Why would I kill him?" Leon said indifferently. "Take him away. Tell him I'll come find him for another chat later." Tiamut nodded. "I'll send him back to the Celestials' dimension first. Want to come? I'll introduce some friends." Tiamut felt no pity for the mangled Arisham. He was almost dead, not completely gone. And even if he did die, the previous Arisham had already been absorbed by Agatha. Leon waved a hand. "No, I still need to find an unowned dimension." "What kind of unowned dimension?" Tiamut asked. "The address Dormammu gave me. I don't know either. I was about to go look," Leon said, and with a flash of energy, he displayed the coordinates. Tiamut glanced at them a few times. "I know this location. It really is unowned. I'll take you there." The Celestials were blunt but sincere. After he finished speaking, Tiamut flew to the battered form of Arisham. He condensed a globe of cosmic energy, wrapped it around the Judge, and with a single, powerful shove, hurled him out. Arisham's massive body streaked through the void and quickly disappeared as a red dot. "What are you doing?" Leon asked in surprise. "That energy will send Arisham back," Tiamut said, patting his chest. "He doesn't need me. I brought you here to guide you." Leon watched the red dot fade. Then, "Thank you." They took off. Leon shifted back into his Superman form and rode on Tiamut's head, enjoying a god's chauffeuring. They crossed a vast expanse of void until Tiamut halted above a small dimension. "Below is the dimension the address pointed to," Tiamut said, gesturing. Leon peered down. The dimension was slightly smaller than the observable universe, ample space for his divine kingdom after his breakthrough. As his gaze pierced the space and into the realm, realization crossed his face. A sprawling city filled the dimension. 2 distinct life forms lived there in uneasy harmony. Only a handful of powerhouses reached Skyfather level. This was indeed an unowned dimension, Dormammu's promised condition fulfilled. But Leon could not take it. The city was Sephiroth City, its inhabitants wielding power akin to Kamartaj's sorcerers, the power of the Vishanti. The creatures were kin of Ashtur, one of the Vishanti gods. The dimension sat right next to Dormammu's dark dimension, acting as an outpost to block Dormammu's territorial expansion. Because of Kamartaj's ties to the Vishanti, Leon could not covet this place. If he seized it, Dormammu would constantly invade. Its proximity to the dark dimension made it indefensible, and the Vishanti would intervene. He guessed at Dormammu's plan and smiled without surprise. "That contemptible Dormammu," Leon muttered. "He's ruthless and sly." The dark dimension was indeed adjacent to the Sephiroth realm. "Let's go, Tiamut," Leon said. Now that he knew Dormammu's intent, he had every reason to trick the Dark Lord right back. Leaving already?" Tiamut sounded puzzled. I thought you were coming to slaughter these beings. Do you think I'm a titan who enjoys killing? Leon's face darkened. Well, your address came from Dormammu. I thought you might be working with him. Tiamat pointed. Look, Dormammu's come out of the dark dimension. It looks like you two might be cooperating to seize this place. Leon followed his gesture. A familiar flaming pumpkin head had indeed emerged, peering toward them. The two gazes met, and Dormammu's voice, coarse as an old bellows, burst into laughter. You actually came, Sorcerer Supreme. Ha! He surged from his realm, expanding his form to thousands of kilometers, sweeping down like an enormous net across the void. The Sephiroth creatures panicked, alarm bells rang, and Vishanti wards sparked into being, preparing to resist an invasion. But Dormammu wasn't targeting them. His vast body blew past the small dimension and lunged straight at Leon, gloating with a murderous glee. Sorcerer Supreme, your greed brought you here. This time, I have you trapped. This is my territory, my dimension. Here, time is useless, space is useless, those wretched stones are useless. Hand over all your dimensions. I will spare you and make you my servant. Leon stared as Dormammu closed. The plan was simpler and purer than he'd expected. Dormammu had used the unowned dimension information to bait him here, intending to kill Leon and claim everything he owned. The scheme was almost touching in its straightforwardness. This dimension belongs to the Vishanti, Dormammu. This wasn't part of our agreement, Leon said. Humph, Dormammu sneered. The contract said I give you information until you find an unowned dimension. The conditions are met. The deal is done. Now everything you have will belong to me. Tiamat looked bewildered. Leon, aren't you allies? Did he betray you, like Jiangdong backstabbing Shu Han? Your analogies, you know too many Earth stories, Leon replied dryly. But Dormammu and I are not on the same side. The 6 infinity stones in Leon's inner world connected, and energy flooded him. In the realm of Split, the stones' usual rules barely held, but their combined power still lifted Leon to an extreme level. Dormammu, even having left his domain, was no more than a top-tier Skyfather here. Leon opened his fingers and then snapped them shut as Dormammu lunged. A fusion of terrifying energy erupted like a celestial river and engulfed Dormammu's colossal form. In an instant, Dormammu was washed away into nothingness. One moment he laughed and threatened, the next he was gone, dead without snarl or final cry. Let's go somewhere else, Leon said calmly, withdrawing his arm as Tiamat continued to fly. Where? Tiamat was unfazed by Dormammu's instant death. If Erisham had nearly died here, a being like Dormammu being taken out was hardly shocking. You fly first, I'll think. All right, Tiamat said. In Sephiroth City, the residents stared in astonishment. The being they had feared for ages had perished so easily. Dormammu is dead, their leader breathed. Even if he resurrects, it'll take at least 100 years before he's strong again. We can live in peace for a long time. Across the veil in the dark dimension, amid a purple-black landscape of alien geometry, a tiny flame suddenly blinked into being. It hungrily sucked up the surrounding dark energy, stirring an energy storm. At the storm's center, the flaming pumpkin head reappeared, coalescing, growing, sprouting limbs as it reformed. Impossible! How can that Sorcerer Supreme still use those filthy stones? Dormammu raged inwardly, bewildered and furious. He steadied himself and tried to reason. He couldn't have reached my realm. No, if he came here, he'd be looking for death. No point in chasing him now. Humans live only 100 years. For now, I'll forgive him, Dormammu muttered. But when that Sorcerer Supreme dies, I will devour his earth and take my revenge. Consider him lucky, this time. Leon, we've been flying a long time, and we're almost at hell, Tiamat said as they moved through the Voidland. If you don't have anywhere particular to go, why don't we find a place to rest? As a sleeping god, Leon preferred staying motionless in one place rather than wandering. No need, I must go, Tiamat. I'm looking for a dimension. We'll meet again if fate allows. He closed his eyes on top of Tiamat's head and activated his traversal ability. Rather than asking around for the location of an ownerless dimension, directly searching with traversal was far more efficient. He fed in keywords and let the system lock on. Current multiverse, ownerless dimension, no faction disputes. Searching for worlds. Leon's consciousness slipped into a chaotic expanse of countless dimensional worlds, large and small. The tiny ones were like scattered chunks of land. The larger ones resembled whole universe bubbles. Following the simple rule that larger was better, he picked the biggest and began to traverse. "I'm off. Goodbye." His figure vanished from Tiamat's head so cleanly no energy ripples were left. Tiamat touched his empty crown. "He's gone just like that?" The realm of Split, which contained most of the dimensions around Earth, was vast. Leon reappeared in a distant corner of the Voidland, far from Tiamat. Before him floated an enormous ownerless dimension located at the extreme edge of the realm of Split, precisely the kind of remote place Hell Lords and Dimension Masters often overlooked over their long lives. Most ownerless dimensions hid in such forgotten corners. "It's big enough," Leon murmured. From outside the membrane, the dimension's diameter measured at least several trillion light-years. Not as huge as the dark dimension, but impressive all the same. He tore open the membrane and slipped inside. He entered a universe-like expanse. As with other dimensions, this place had no time rule and no death rule, though there were spatial laws governing it. The voidland within was dotted with innumerable points of light, stars, millions of them visible at a casual glance. Far fewer than in a single universe, but remarkable for a dimension. Most stars in the multiverse were creations of the Celestials. A dimension with stars could be naturally formed, the remnant of a shattered universe that drifted into the realm of Split, or, Leon considered, perhaps a world that had once served as a Sentinel's power source. The exact origin didn't matter. What mattered was that it satisfied him. "I'll try using this dimension to host my divine kingdom." He stood in the Voidland and began his breakthrough. Inside his inner world, the original nucleus, which had been merged into it, reappeared under his control. In the starry sky system, cultivation was about understanding world structure and ultimately building one's own world. The original nucleus in an inner world was like a singularity to a universe. The moment the original nucleus hovered into being, the Reg Duo clone reached out and unleashed a beam of astonishing power. The complete law of light struck the original nucleus. The inner world shook. The original nucleus that contained Leon's soul shattered into powder. That soul powder scattered and then evenly merged into every cell of each of Leon's bodies. From immortality up to the Lawmaster realm, the soul's integration with flesh enabled genetic refinement from the deepest level. The realm restriction is gone. Breakthrough to immortality succeeded. Leon opened his eyes, and in the same instant, connected to the dark dimension. He drew with unprecedented force. Rivers and seas of dark energy descended. The Reg Duo clone synchronized, using pure light to purify every drop of dark energy that flowed in. These were energies Dormammu had obtained by devouring dimensions, original dimensional energies condensed and compressed until they were viscous, corrosive liquids. A single drop could annihilate a human on Earth, yet Leon's bodies drank them in and assimilated them cleanly. The auras of his three other bodies surged in parallel. Only the Reg Duo clone remained distinct, purifying. Leon had already mastered the laws tied to the 6 Infinity Stones. "I can keep breaking through." The dark dimension's flow was relentless, still pouring in and not yet filling the gap left by his breakthrough. He broke again. After immortality, there were the venerable and master stages of the law realm. Leon skipped the venerable and vaulted straight to Lawmaster. His capacity to draw energy intensified. The rift to the dark dimension, already torn by him, widened by several light years. A waterfall of black energy poured through, converging on him like an energy black hole. Dimensional creatures scattered through this ownerless world stared in dumbfounded awe. At the rift's edge, Dormammu appeared, kneeling by the tier, the flames on his head burning toward a black hole. He wailed, "No, you bastard! That energy is mine, all mine!" How vast was Leon's energy deficit? If he were in his own universe, he could swallow every star in the Milky Way and still come up short. Dormammu watched the absorption with a mixture of grief and envy. He dared not act. If he healed the breach and cut Leon off, he would break the contract and give Vishanti a pretext to move against him and invite the other demon gods to carve up the dark dimension. But if he did nothing, Leon would drain decades of Dormammu's accumulation every second. "No, I beg you, Sorcerer Supreme, please stop." Dormammu chose humiliation. He prostrated himself at the rift and begged with a voice like a broken saw. Leon did not listen. He increased the absorption efficiency. The Rege duoclone's light fractured the crack open by another few light years. The dark energy waterfall intensified. Leon stood at the base and opened his arms, drawing it all in. The corrosive darkness was assimilated and purified within him. Dormammu's eyes burned with impotent hatred. He felt wronged and useless. He begged until he exhausted himself, then lay by the crack, muttering like a broken thing. Curious beings in the ownerless dimension, some of them even weak Skyfather level, were drawn by the commotion and flew toward the scene. Among them was a young woman with long black hair in a purple battlesuit and a top hat-like helmet. When several of the weak Skyfather-level beings brushed the dense dark energy, they were instantly overwhelmed, corroded, and driven mad. The woman in purple, however, was unaffected as she approached and watched Leon from the center of the energy. She tried absorbing a little of the dark dimension's power herself, but after only a few wisps she recoiled with disgust and flew away. Dormammu noticed everything. That being looks familiar. This space. He stared hard at the ownerless dimension. Recognition sparked through him. His flames flared bright again. An ownerless dimension this large. This should be mine. His greed flared. The energy is mine, and the dimension should belong to me. He glared at Leon with deep, unresolvable hatred, but he had no means to stop this sorcerer supreme unless Leon stepped into the dark dimension itself. The flames on his head dimmed and blackened with frustration. He cast one last hateful glance at Leon and turned to leave. Mephisto, Satanish, this will favor you. Dormammu did not see that at the center of the energy. Leon's mouth had tilted into a faint smile. Time passed. Even with the Rege duoclone constantly purifying, Leon absorbed relentlessly for a full month. The dark energy his bodies needed finally reached saturation. I've taken in energy equivalent to hundreds of spiral galaxies from the dark dimension. Dormammu must be heartbroken, Leon said, having completed his breakthrough from World Master to Lawmaster. I could keep going. The 6 Infinity Stones laws can push me through 4 more major realms and make me a Chaos Master, he told himself. But if I continue now, my genes will harden, making the next transformation difficult. I should remain at the Lawmaster stage for a while, letting my genetic structure perfect and strengthen. The so-called perfect gene was only perfect within a universe. From a higher perspective, it still had flaws. To keep breaking through was to exceed universal limits, and Leon felt the Kryptonian gene still had room to evolve. Note, Skyfather level ranges from planet busting to being able to interfere with an entire universe. Single entity level can instantly interfere with a single universe. Super single entity can affect multiple universes at once. Chapter 435. Zhang Chaoren also wants to become a dimensional demon. To break through further, I need to make my God realm into a miniature universe, but I don't even have a God realm yet. The next step is to transform the world inside my body into a God realm. Liege Duo's gaze pierced the depths of the dimension. Even before, with his Superman body and sun-basking power, he had outclassed the Starry Sky system, but his strength had limits. Now, he had broken through to Lawmaster in rapid succession. His main body had grown far stronger. With supervision active, he could see scenes millions of light years away. If he were inside a universe, the law manipulation he could exert would match that perception range. He could annihilate all matter within millions of light years in an instant. In the Marvel universe, that was the power of a top-tier Skyfather. He scanned the expanse within millions of light years and found nothing but scattered continents and countless stars. I still need the Rege duoclone. Liege Duo sent the Rege duoclone out of the world inside his body. Ultraman's psychic power spread instantly across the dimension, which spanned 10 trillion light-years in diameter. In a remote corner of the dimensional world, he finally discovered a mysterious, unfathomable sphere of light. Dimensional Core found it. The Rege duoclone turned to light and appeared beside the Dimensional Core, bringing Liege Duo's main body with it. These lights look like concentrated segments of dimensional information and like the outward manifestation of dimensional authority. He watched for a few seconds, then looked around. It can't be too remote. I'll bring it closer to the center. Liege Duo imprisoned the Dimensional Core in a field of light and moved it toward the dimension's center. If he wanted, He could become a dimensional master right now and transform into a dimensional demon god. Becoming a dimensional master was relatively simple in theory. Bind your soul to the dimensional core. Dormammu had once been driven out of the Faltine dimension and found the core of the dark dimension, which is how he rose to dimensional mastery. But soul binding carried risks. Long-term binding could erode the soul, letting dimensional energy assimilate it. In the comics, Strange once acquired a dimension and was nearly split into multiple personalities by its energy. If one's control was weak, a backlash could occur, and others might seize the dimension. The last time Duo had trapped Dormammu in the World Ring, Dormammu had been frantic to return because his control on the outside was much weaker. Duo had even warned other lords of Hell and dimensions that Dormammu's home could be taken if he returned late. Soul binding wasn't the only way to gain mastery. Kang the Conqueror had used technology to attune himself to a dimension. Duo, however, had a different plan. His world inside his body needed to incorporate a spatial fragment while becoming a god realm. He intended to bind the dimensional core to his god realm instead, replacing the core's control over the dimension. This is the spot. He stopped at the center of the dimensional world. Below them, hundreds of millions of stars had already formed a smaller spiral galaxy. Establish the god realm. Duo spread his arms and tapped the dimensional world's energy. The dimensional core floated before him. World power surged out from his inner world and wrapped the core. An invisible barrier sealed off the void around it, about 0.1 light-years across, the diameter of Duo's inner world. Silent fluctuations spread, and a phantom world was projected into that sealed void. The dimensional core sat at the heart of the projection. Under his control, the projection gradually solidified while the real core thinned and became ethereal. The space in front of him began to hum. The world that had been inside his body vanished, merging into the space and becoming a true god realm. The dimensional core merged into that god realm space as well, becoming part of it. The god realm is complete. Duo looked at the god realm. It was only 1/10 of a light-year across, but it meant his plan had worked. The god realm and the dimensional core had successfully fused, the core replaced and its dimensional authority usurped. As the god realm's master, Duo could control everything inside it. By extension, he had become the master of this large dimensional world. Floating in the void without moving, he felt control seep into him and then expand. At first, his will altered rules only within a few light-years, but that range steadily widened until the entire dimension, a space trillions of light-years across, answered him. He could mobilize all the energy in the dimension. Every rule was set by him. From that moment on, Duo, with his Superman body, had truly become a dimensional demon god. He clenched his hand, and a region hundreds of millions of light-years away collapsed into a black hole. Here, my strength climbs to the weak single-entity level, he thought, exhilarated. The feeling soon dulled. The dimension's blessings only applied inside the dimension. Outside, at best, he could siphon energy to help endurance, and since he could already draw power from the dark dimension, there was little point to that. Even with the dimension's boon, his main body still lagged behind the Reg duoclone in strength. Before, I thought becoming a dimensional master would be a game changer, he mused. Now, it feels a little underwhelming. He sighed. Still, having it was better than not. This dimension will be called the God Realm dimension. A sudden idea struck him. If a dimensional master can set rules inside a dimension, then maybe I can make this place mirror the real world, with rules corresponding to the 6-gem structure. The Infinity Stones might reach their full power here. He acted immediately. Inside the God Realm dimension, his consciousness functioned like a true god's. Everything in the world moved at his will. Time. He embedded the time rule he had comprehended into the dimension, and the concept and flow of time appeared. He nested rules one by one. Space. Reality. When all 6 rules were embedded, the God Realm dimension became almost indistinguishable from reality. Duo affixed the 6 Infinity Stones to his battlesuit and activated them. The power he could wield here was not far off from what he could in the real world. Rumble. As the 6 rules began operating, the God Realm dimension trembled. A surge of chaotic energy from the realm of Split rushed into it. Legiduo could perceive every change. My dimension is growing. No, transforming into a real universe. Is this the effect of the six-gem rule structure? He wondered, unsurprised. If his instincts were right, the six-gem framework would let him break through the starry sky world's Chaos Master realm, where one could create a universe's structure. Beyond that, the God King realm allowed creation of super-large, independent universes with their own knowledge and power. By endowing the God realm dimension with the six universe structuring rules, he had effectively turned it into a nascent world. Maybe the God realm dimension will become an oddity in the realm of split. Everyone else is a dimension, but mine will be a universe. Legiduo watched the transformation and estimated it would take a few months. He could afford to do other things in the meantime. He flew toward the huge God realm continent floating at the dimension's center. The world that had been inside his body retained its appearance, a vast continent threaded with laws of light. A blood sea of Reg Duo clones expanded to 100 million kilometers across. Mountains, grasslands, forests, and creatures he had created during training, alongside mutated beasts from the starry sky world. In the continent's center, the Time Fortress still stood. A black light clone crouched at the base of the inheritance steps inside the fortress. A stream of virus clones writhed around the highest step, rolling up a pile of equipment. The beast god Joe, who left this fortress inheritance, was only at my current realm. These peak supreme treasures are not very useful to me anymore, Legiduo thought. His greatest treasure now was the Rage Duo clone. With it by his side, other supreme treasures were redundant. The black light clone rummaged through the steps. Time God armor, peak-tier treasure armor, can reduce an attack that could annihilate tens of millions of light years by 1/10. It will be damaged if it exceeds that. Time Claw gauntlets, top offensive treasure, amplify attacks using the Starry Sky World's attack patterns. Not very useful here. Beast God Pearl, top soul treasure, resist soul attacks. Useful, keep it. And the entire Time Fortress, a peak treasure palace integrating defense, flight, and suppression. My main body can use it. Legiduo took the treasures left by Joe from the Time Fortress, had his main body assume them, and donned the gear. In minutes, he had transformed into a figure in white gold battle armor, a small fortress suspended at his waist. Next time Dormammu comes looking, I'll suppress him in this fortress and keep him from returning to the dark dimension, he said with a malicious smile. He was sure that day was not far off. Dormammu's earlier departure had clearly been to gather reinforcements. Legiduo had seen the fire color crown Dormammu's head and inferred that. He had been waiting over a month, yet Dormammu and his reinforcements still had not arrived. Chapter 436, Galan, Devourer of World's Daughter. Someone's coming toward me? Legiduo sensed movement from the spiral galaxy below his god plane. He looked down. The beings were natives of some dimension, odd life forms, each stranger than the last. Some had 2 eyeballs dangling on thin, elongated stalks like evolved snails. Others were masses of living stone, inorganic matter somehow become alive. All of them lacked any trace of law-based cultivation, yet their energy signatures were exquisite. He had detected these creatures before, back when he became a lord of the dimension. Life in this dimension was sparse, only a few 100 million individuals scattered across its regions. A single sunlit continent might hold only 3 to 5. Most were about the power of an ordinary Kamartaj sorcerer. The strongest had reached a pseudo-Sky Father level, meaning they couldn't even destroy a planet. 7 such beings existed in the starry sky system beneath his god. There had originally been 13, but a month ago several had come into contact with high-density dark energy, gone mad, and become corrupted. They had since died for reasons unknown. Go see them, he thought. Legiduo closed the gates around his god plane to prevent intrusions, bent space, and appeared instantly before the group. A few humanoid, oddly shaped creatures froze. Their strange eyes scanned him nervously. Then, the pseudo-Skyfather level ones tried to communicate telepathically, broken, frantic images and impressions. Get away, run, the devil is behind us. Legiduo couldn't make out words, but the meaning was clear. He reached out and drew them close. Before he could speak, another voice came from the direction they had fled. Don't run, I told you I wouldn't eat you. Well, even if your calories are at least in the trillions, I wouldn't eat you. Slurp. Sound shouldn't carry in the void, but Leje Duo's super hearing heard it as if it were right next to him. The voice belonged to a lively young girl. All at once, he pictured a mischievous, hyperactive child. He looked and saw her. A girl in a purple cosmic battle suit, long black hair spilling from beneath a tall hat, streaking through space. Even through Leje Duo's supervision, she was flawless. Silky, poreless skin, large purple eyes, a tiny waist supporting an impossibly large white bust. She looked both mischievous and perfect. Galen, the devourer of worlds' daughter? Leje Duo was surprised. That was who the Celestials had been searching for on the far side of the realm of Split. No one expected to find her in an unclaimed dimension. The natives chattered and jabbered at once. Seeing Leje Duo, their fear shifted. These powerful newcomer might be an ally. One by one, they scuttled behind him like trembling white rabbits, peeking out and accusing Galen in telepathy and garbled speech. Liar! You ate rhinoceros horn water and hemorrhoid cutter, and the others. Galen skidded to a halt. I didn't. Well, okay, even if I did eat them, they were corrupted by dimensional energy and going insane. I only did it so they wouldn't hurt you. Leje Duo put it together. The corrupted ones had been eaten by Galen. As the devourer of world's daughter, she carried a cosmic parasite inside, a tapeworm-like entity that constantly devours her power and keeps her perpetually hungry. Still, Galen had strong scruples about eating planets or ordinary mortals. On Earth, when starving, she preferred to feed on cancer cells, viruses, and other harmful organisms in hospitals, or on alien predators that threatened humans. She drained energy by touch, not by tearing people apart. Don't eat me. Don't eat me, the dimensionals squealed, shrinking away as Galen approached. Galen rolled her eyes. Ugh, it was that guy who loves dark energy that caused this. He brought in that disgusting stuff. How can anyone swallow it? I wasn't eating it, Leje Duo retorted, his expression darkening. I was absorbing it. Eating and absorbing are the same thing. Galen sniffed, then squinted upward. Wait, it's you. You're the one eating that disgusting energy. She glanced at the vanished energy waterfall above. Then she fixed Leje Duo with a hungry look. Her purple eyes began to glow. Your flavor isn't great, but you look delicious. At least billions, trillions, quintillions, so many calories. Drool formed at the corner of her mouth. Hunger radiated off her like heat. She craved life energy above all. Leje Duo hadn't been regarded as food since the zombie universe days and felt oddly uncomfortable. Slurp. Galen wiped her mouth, snapped her fingers, and smacked her forehead. Right. No, I don't eat people. I don't eat people. The Dimensionals weren't convinced. We saw you eat them, they insisted. Galen pouted. Blesh, big fools. You're not even people to them. You're rocks, snails, energy beings, Leje Duo said, trying to calm things. The beings glanced at him, then retreated again as if even he might suddenly change his mind. Relax. I don't eat snail meat, Leje Duo added, and the snail-eyed native visibly deflated. The stone monster and the energy being jabbered anxiously to convince themselves. Leje Duo sighed. Only then did the three of them slink closer again, hiding behind him. Galen tilted her head, offended. Why do you believe him but not me? We saw you eating people, they echoed. Galen scowled and tossed her hair. Leje Duo cut in. The Celestials are looking for you because your father is starving and went to Earth. They want you to come and calm him down. Galen froze. He went to Earth again? Her eyes lit up. Then I'll go find him right now. She zipped off, but her stomach growled loudly and she dropped into an Orzid pose. No, I can't. I'm still so hungry. I ate those dimensionals, but it's not enough. Leje Duo raised an eyebrow. There are so many suns here. Couldn't you absorb their energy? Suns don't help, Galen said sadly. I have to eat life energy or planets that support life to really fill my stomach. There are many living planets, Leje Duo said, but I absolutely won't let you destroy them just to satisfy your hunger. Galen clenched her fists with sudden dramatic resolve, then immediately slumped. So hungry, so hungry. She stared at Leje Duo with big, pleading eyes. Move away. You look too delicious. So many calories. In her sight, he had become a walking buffet. Leje Duo, who lived on solar absorption and starry sky system cultivation, hadn't felt true hunger in ages. Still, he understood the problem well enough. Look, he said, hands on his hips. Ollie's crippled because of me and can't work. I'll let you have a bite so you'll go find the Devourer of Worlds and stop my father from rampaging." "Really?" Galen's eyes glittered. She started to reach out, then flailed and backed off. No, I don't eat humans. You look human." "Who said I'm just a human?" Lejuo thought and produced a Reduo clone beside him. The clone's 90,000-kilometer form terrified the Dimensionals into clutching Leduo's pant leg and keening. Galen's eyes turned into literal cake slices. "Cream cake. It's an abstract entity," Lejuo corrected. Galen blinked, then looked from him to the clone. "Same soul, different bodies, and one is an abstract entity. Are you one of my siblings?" Galen herself was a cosmic entity, a subcosmic god, a step below the Devourer of Worlds. Don't let her hunger fool you. When she was sated, her power reached true cosmic levels. Chapter 437, Dimension Demon Coming. Legiduo shook his head. "No, eternity is my friend. Call me Uncle out of respect." "Uncle?" Galen's small mouth opened in surprise. "But you look so young, and your calories aren't like Dad's. He looks dead at first glance." Ever hungry, Galen's first impression of anyone was always how many calories they offered and whether they were quality calories. Surprised? Right, come on. Uncle Leiji Duo will give you something delicious to eat. The Rege Duo clone spread his hand. A wisp of light peeled away from his body and floated toward Galen like a miniature sun. Galen shook her head, reluctant. "No, the power of abstract entities is pure concept and cosmic energy. It's not what I need. It looks so delicious." She stopped mid-sentence. Her regret turned to a fixed stare. Her purple eyes shone as she focused on the light. "It's life energy, rich life energy, so much, way more than an entire Earth." "This is unbelievable, but..." Galen's long legs, clad in purple knee-high combat boots, shuffled impatiently. She fought to restrain herself, but the hunger won. "Is this really for me? If I eat it, won't you lose all that life energy?" She made a little choking sound of restrained patience. Her tiny hands balled into trembling fists. Lejedua waved it off. "Go ahead. It's yours. It's not cannibalism, and it won't violate your rule about never devouring inhabited planets." Before he finished, Galen lunged with a whoosh and buried herself in the light. "Nom nom nom. Delicious. So good," she babbled happily as she absorbed the light directly into her body, stuffing her cheeks. The light, like a small, steady star, shrank steadily until she finished the last mouthful and slumped in space like someone who'd just finished a feast. She sucked each of her 10 fingers and patted her flat little belly, humming contentedly. "So delicious. I haven't eaten anything this good since I was born. I'm not hungry anymore." Galen could never be truly full, but if her hunger wasn't too intense, she was satisfied. She beamed at Leiji Duo. "Thank you, unknown conceptual entity, Uncle." Her purple eyes sparkled like a rose nebula when she smiled. "Just call me Leiji Duo," he said. "Now go find the Celestials and have them take you to the Devourer of Worlds." After Galen drove the Devourer away, Lejeduo would receive feedback in the form of new justice and order concepts. The amount of power each universe could return to the Rei Duo clone topped out at the universe's scale, so he had to keep opening new parallel universe markets. He was more than willing to help Galen and quickly reap the feedback. "Okay," she chirped. "I'm off." "Oh, Lejeduo, you're an abstract entity. How can you provide life energy?" Galen asked before leaving. "Uncle Eternity and Uncle Annihilation can't do that." Lejeduo shrugged. "Because, besides being an abstract entity, I'm also an Earthling and a dimensional demon god." "An Earthling?" Galen's surprise turned to a giggle. "I knew you seemed like an Earthling." "So those lights were actually the energy of this dimension? I sensed a lord here before and thought it was you." "Not exactly dimensional energy, but close enough." Lejeduo didn't go into details. The clone's power now came in 2 parts: the conceptual, cosmic energy of an abstract entity, and divine power from the starry sky system, energy drawn from the dark dimension, compressed and converted after he reached Lawmaster. With his innate abilities, he could transform that divine power into light saturated with life energy. In the wider cosmos, life energy was rare. Only living worlds held it. Otherwise, entities like the Devourer of Worlds wouldn't scour reality for life-bearing planets. "I see," Galen thought for a moment. "Can I come find you again?" "Yes, bringing the Devourer with you is fine." Leduo made an okay gesture. "Really?" Galen was delighted. A long-standing problem seemed about to be solved. Still, she wouldn't let her new abstract entity uncle lose out. "I'll come back for sure, Duo. Next time I'll bring you something good." She waved happily and slipped through the dimensional folds, already planning what to give as a token of thanks. Galen had barely gone when the few native dimensional beings nearby suddenly cried out and knelt, clinging to his legs. "My lord, so you are our lord. Master, thank you for chasing away that demon. He was terrifying." Learning from the conversation that Duo was the new dimensional lord, they pledged fealty. They were pseudo-Heavenly Father-level entities and knew they'd now live at his whim. "Let go of me, slug. Don't hug my leg with your eye stalks," Duo grumbled, pushing them away. "Stonemen, stop whimpering. You're getting thin." He questioned them about their powers. Aside from brute strength, they had nothing remarkable. Utterly unremarkable. Useless for any real task. "Fine, don't interfere with me, and you and your tribes can live as before." He teleported them back to their regions. "They're useless. It would be more useful to lend dimensional energy to the Kamartaj mages once I return." Duo turned to return to the God Realm, waiting for the God Realm dimension to finish its transformation. Then Galen burst back through the dimensional veil, hauling something huge with her. "Duo, look what I found!" After vaulting in, she dragged a big green monster through the rift. Duo's jaw dropped. He still needed spatial defenses for the God Realm dimension, otherwise powerful beings could just break in. "You just left. Why did you bring back another Hell Lord?" He glanced at the creature Galen floated in front of him. Yellowish-green, burly, massive ram horns curling from behind its head. A grotesque face decorated his belly, a maw that dripped wet, sticky fluid into the void. The sight was familiar. "This is Satanish, right? One of the lords of hell. Where did you catch him?" Duo hesitated. "That's right, Satanish," Galen giggled proudly. "As soon as I got out, I saw him lurking. He must have been watching your dimension, so I dragged him in. He can teleport through the quantum realm. If I hadn't chased him closely, he would have escaped." Hell Lord's power varied. In their own hells, they were naturally stronger, but outside, they were little more than Heavenly Father level, better at scheming and escaping than sustained combat. It helped that Galen wasn't hungry, or she might have devoured him. "Satanish was preparing to seize my dimension," Duo said, as he floated beside the unconscious Hell Lord. "A subcosmic god could knock out a Hell Lord without much trouble." "You sensed the dark dimension energy earlier?" he continued. "Dormammu can roughly trace the location through energy channels. He covets this place, but he's not confident he could beat me outright, so he'll look for allies. In the realm of Split, their circle of demon gods is limited. He must have gone to recruit other Hell Lords. I estimate he and his allies have been searching for a month, and now they've finally found the right spot." Duo tapped Satanish with his boot. "Hell Lords and dimensional demon gods are much the same, cunning, cruel, and distrustful. Satanish probably wanted to swallow this dimension privately, but now he's unconscious and was dragged in. Others will trace this location from the traces he carries." Galen listened from the side, alarmed. "Did I just make things worse?" "No," she blurted, then worried. "I'm so sorry. But don't worry, I'll stay and help you drive them off." She clenched her tiny fists, making it clear she wasn't to be underestimated. "You don't have to. I expected they'd come," Duo said, smiling. "If you hadn't knocked out Satanish and brought him here, Dormammu and the Hell Lords might never have found this place." "But why do you want them to find you? They're here to seize dimensions," Galen fretted. "How can they seize a dimension that already has a master?" Duo smiled wider. "I just became a dimensional demon god, a newcomer. It's polite to introduce myself to the neighbors, isn't it? I happen to miss Dormammu. Let them come over and make things lively." Duo was waiting for Dormammu to deliver himself. Dormammu had tricked him before. Now it was his turn to turn the tables. Galen looked at him oddly. "You're awfully hospitable, inviting a Hell Lord to your home. I'll be even more hospitable when they actually arrive." Duo waved a hand. "Aren't you supposed to find your father? Go, or Earth might be gone by the time you get back." Galen hesitated. "Can you really handle them? Don't you need me?" "Do I need you?" Duo motioned toward the Duo clone hovering in the distance. Galen slapped her head in sudden understanding and then flew off like a homing pigeon, carrying Satanish and the message. After she left, Lejeduo removed the time fortress from his waist and tossed it into the void. The tiny device swelled rapidly, expanding into a bunker dozens of meters tall and sucking Satanish inside. This was not the time fortress at its greatest. It could expand to hundreds of light years. Even so, it was more than enough to subdue Satanish. Once restrained inside, the Hell Lord was pinned by an invisible force, unable to awaken unless Lejeduo chose to release him. Such was the suppressive terror of a palace-type supreme artifact. That was only the first step. Lejeduo sent the black light clone out from the God Realm dimension. It drilled into the time fortress, flicked out a fleshy, writhing whip, tore a piece of Satanish's flesh free, and began to digest and absorb it. The clone's genetic level, stagnant for 2.5 years, suddenly leapt, breaking through from 10,081 to 10,100. Perfect genes, Lejeduo murmured. The black light clone is perfectly suited to genetic evolution. The clone's liquid surface rippled and reshaped itself into the likeness of Satanish down to the Hell aura. No one should recognize me, Lejeduo told himself as he took control and slipped into the apparition. He left the God Realm dimension and hovered in the surrounding void. There was no light, but the black light clone, having analyzed vast caches of Kryptonian genes and equipped with superlative vision, could see everything. He waited. Hours later, 7 small figures emerged from the darkness and flew toward him. As they drew near, they began to argue and accuse. Satanish, you found the target and didn't tell us? We're allies. Dormammu's voice crackled with glee. Even dimensional demon gods brightened at the prospect of new opportunity. Heh, Dormammu, spare us. We all know what each of us is, so cut the sentimentality. Lejeduo slipped into the role smoothly. None of those assembled, Mephisto, Marduk, Lucifer, and the others, suspected anything wrong. They did not meet constantly. Demons were temperamental and fickle. Being slightly more rational than the real Satanish would not raise suspicion. No, Mephisto, appearing as an old man, frowned sharply. He found nothing amiss with the Satanish before them, but his intuition told him something was wrong. That dimension's state is off. Its barrier is blocking entry. It already has a master. Dormammu, you lied to us, another cried. The assembled Hell Lords scowled and turned their accusations at Dormammu. Even his head flames dimmed and blackened again. Stop joking, Nightmare. Lejeduo snapped at the one who had suggested deception. The speaker, Nightmare, had a withered, vampire-like face. He wasn't a Hell Lord, but the ruler of the dream dimension, a fearsome demon in his own right. I have already bound a hell, Lejeduo said calmly. If I had bound another dimension right now, would I reduce my own control to hand Mephisto and the rest an opening? Our objective is simple. Divide this masterless dimension, Lejeduo continued, pointing at the God Realm dimension. It's unmastered, but it's evolving into a true universe. That's why its state feels different. They turned their gazes and saw that the God Realm dimension was indeed absorbing chaotic energy and expanding. It's becoming a real universe. Maybe one day it will leave the realm of split and join the outer dimensions, Mephisto observed. Whoever controls it could one day rival a Crimson Lord, he added, and the idea inflamed the demon god's eyes with greed. If I offered the dark dimension in exchange, would you hand it over to me? Dormammu asked suddenly. The dark dimension was vast, far larger than the one before them. The chance to claim it threatened to break the fragile alliance. Dream on, Dormammu. This could be a universe. Lucifer sneered, and the others joined in scolding him. Greed made them squabble testily. Lejeduo cut through. Don't forget why you called us here. You couldn't beat a human. The Sorcerer Supreme from US Universe 19999 is inside, guarding that dimension. Vishanti have already intervened, he said bluntly. When I first entered, I was driven out by the Sorcerer Supreme, Dormammu admitted. If we want this dimension, we should stay united or bring in more help. Mephisto's Blackheart hasn't arrived yet, Dormammu added. Mephisto lazily dismissed it. No need. He's useless. Dormammu's suggestion sent a chill through the group. I could call Shuma, he said after a pause. The reaction was immediate and horrified. Are you mad? Marduk exclaimed. If you call Shuma, none of us will get anything, and some of us might not survive. Shuma was a nightmare of the outer dimensions, spanning hundreds of realities. An elder, Cthulhu-like god. The mere thought of summoning Shuma sent the demon lords into a fury. Even Lei Jaduo felt a jolt of dread. Shuma's mental pollution and raw might were legendary. In a brutal example, Dark Strange in What If devoured one of Shuma's tentacles and was then able to contend with Infinite Ultron wielding 6 Infinity Stones. Lei Jaduo knew he wouldn't stand against Shuma in a head-on fight. "Don't call Shuma," Lei Jaduo said coldly. "If you want to die, do it yourself. Don't drag us in." Mephisto supported him. "Satanish is right. Last time you took advantage of me being besieged by that Sorcerer Supreme and stole most of my hoard. There's no need to go that far." Dormammu's flames flared black with rage. "You stole my accumulation last time," he hissed. "Then what do you want? A bigger cut this time? Call Shuma and we'll leave," Nightmare shot back. After a long flicker of thought, Dormammu's flames shifted color and he nodded slowly. "If the split isn't to my satisfaction, no one gets anything." "Good. Then we'll split the spoils and let you choose first," Lei Jaduo said, pointing to the shimmering barrier. "First, we break through the dimension's defenses. The Sorcerer Supreme fortified that barrier after driving me out." Lei Jaduo's main body remained inside the God Realm dimension, constantly weaving curses, defensive seals, and runes of spatial reinforcement on the barrier. The demon gods agreed to cooperate and began to strike in unison. Dormammu unleashed dimensional fire from hands and mouth. The others poured forth a torrent of energies. They hammered the barrier relentlessly. Even so, they were inferior to the sorcerer's power. Half a minute later, the barrier only quivered and shimmered. "Incredible," Dormammu breathed. "My dark dimension never had such a solid barrier, as expected of a nascent universe." They pushed with all their might. Lei Jaduo, however, had been holding back. Quietly, he ceased his assault, slipped behind Dormammu, and in an instant a giant claw pierced through the Hell Lord's chest. Dormammu swiveled, eyes widening in disbelief. "Satanish. Why?" he managed. "Sorry," Lei Jaduo said, voice deceptively soft. "I suddenly wanted to be a good person." Chapter 439. I, Satanish, am a traitor. All the dimensional demon gods stared at Leon as if he'd gone mad. Satanish actually said he wanted to be a good person? Mephisto and the others found the idea uproarious, an insult to millennia of their nature. They were hell lords, born to burn, kill, and plunder. Satanish's favorite pastime was savoring the cries of innocent souls as he consumed them. Now he claimed he wanted to reform? Mephisto stilled the hell energy crackling in his hand and fixed Leon with a look that said he understood everything. "So that's it," he murmured. He materialized silently behind Dormammu. In a flash, his aged arm became crimson demonic flesh, and his right hand plunged through Dormammu's chest. Boundless curses poured from that arm, spreading through Dormammu's body and pinning him in place. "Ow! Ah!" Dormammu roared in pain as curses strangled his flames and seized his limbs. He could only glare with furious, burning eyes. "Mephisto, you damned devils were planning to betray me all along." Mephisto smiled politely, withdrew his arm, and reverted to the white-haired old man. "Forgive us, old friend, but we are hell lords. Devils. What devil's word is trustworthy? Even children on Earth know that." The other hell lords blinked, confused. When had they agreed to betray Dormammu? They glanced at each other and realized they were agreeing to it now. Marduk cackled, his voice withered. "You were slain only a month ago, Dormammu. Now you return weaker than even that useless Blackheart. What right have you to a share of this dimension?" Lucifer's laugh was cold. "And you wanted to summon Shuma. A ticking bomb like you is more liability than asset. What reason have we to keep you around?" The rest followed, lining up their mockery. "You promised us the world, and then you tried to hoard it," Dormammu raged. "I trusted you. I signed a contract. This is how you repay me?" Mephisto tipped his top hat in a gentlemanly bow. "Thank you for the compliment. After so long, you finally glimpsed the true color of our demonic souls." Dormammu seethed. Flames on his head flared into a furious crown. His curses ricocheted off them like harmless sparks. Threats were all that remained. "Release me now, or you will feel my endless vengeance." "Oh, really?" Lucifer hovered beside him. He struck with a seal that oozed hell energy into Dormammu's eyes and nostrils, seeping through every fiber. "I'll help as well," Marduk said, joining in. A circle of hell lords closed around Dormammu, curses to shatter mind and body, poisons that stopped regeneration, mind-binding magics, all poured into him. Gradually, the flames atop Dormammu's head dimmed to white, his spirit blanking out as his consciousness was systematically broken. The Hell Lords did not want him dead. They wanted him useful, but utterly shattered. The spells were tuned to obliterate will and leave the body fragile. Humph. Mephisto peered down at Dormammu, whiskers trembling. Well done, Satanish. For once, your reckless nature didn't ruin everything. Leon smiled broadly and nodded, playing the part. I couldn't stand Dormammu hoarding this dimension. If he has information, it's an honor to extract it for us. Exactly. We spent a month tracking this dimension off his lead, so it belongs to us, not him, another chimed in. He's greedy and wanted more, said Lucifer. We'll just have to teach him a lesson. Let's divide the spoils and then hit the dark dimension, someone suggested. Good. We'll take all his dimensional energy. Marduk sneered. Nightmare and the other Hell Lords eagerly agreed. Moments before they'd been united, the instant Dormammu faltered, they turned on him with practiced righteousness, each offering reasons why they deserved everything. It all sounded justified, like Dormammu had always been in debt to them. There wasn't a single noble soul among them. Leon watched the scheming devils with cold eyes. Then Mephisto said, Dormammu can't move or summon Shuma. Throw him far away, and let's keep pushing through the barrier. The demon gods obliged, kicking Dormammu aside as they prepared to breach the dimension. Leon glanced at the broken lord and asked casually, Dormammu can't call Shuma anymore, right? Heh, don't worry. Between my curses, Lucifer's seals, and Marduk's poisons, he can't transmit a thing for at least 3 months, Mephisto boasted. Pfft! The sound of tearing flesh interrupted him. Mephisto looked down in horror as a massive claw ripped out his heart and lungs. All the demon gods turned. Leon had used Satanish's simulated claw and driven it through Mephisto. With a single horizontal sweep, Mephisto was severed in two, his halves floating apart. What are you doing, Satanish? Mephisto cried. He tried to reassemble, but the severed edges could not heal. Embedded in them were curses Leon had taken from Kamartaj's forbidden tomes, dark magics that stalled regeneration. The others watched in stunned disbelief. Why was Satanish attacking them? Leon licked blood from his mouth, embodying Satanish's cruelty to perfection. My apologies, he said with a grin. Today I suddenly felt like being a good person. What do you mean by being a good person? Explain yourself. Marduk barked, wary. It means this dimension is mine today, Leon replied. So that's it. You planned to monopolize the dimension all along. Everything you said was a lie. Mephisto gasped, reeling. You expect to take it from the 6 of us? Another protested. If we don't stop him now... They unleashed everything at once, swarming Leon the way they'd swarmed Dormammu. If the real Satanish had done this, they would have overwhelmed him in minutes. But Leon dodged their attacks and curses with an ease that unnerved them. Then he shouted, loud enough to carry across the void, Sorcerer Supreme! Everyone's here. How long will you wait? Don't forget our agreement. Sorcerer Supreme? Agreement? The 6 demon gods froze. They had not forgotten Dormammu's earlier warning, and they knew, if Satanish dared betray them, he must have an ally with the power to cut down Dormammu in an instant. Mephisto scowled toward the dimension. You actually teamed up with a human? He sneered. How laughable. Leon's tone was calm. Are you so different? Haven't you signed contracts with humans on Earth, binding them to the spirit of vengeance to become ghost riders and do your bidding? Mephisto shrugged. A foolish mortal might kill someone as defenseless as Dormammu. But there are 6 of us here. What can a single Sorcerer Supreme do? Unless Vishanti himself appears. I can do a lot. A sword-bright voice cut through the void. Leon's true body emerged from the God Realm dimension, the Time Fortress in hand. Heat vision flared. Crimson beams ripped from him and slammed into Mephisto, blasting the half-melted Hell Lord backward. The beams sliced through the void like blades, cutting Lucifer and the other 4 demon gods in two. What? My body, they howled. Stop him. If our true bodies die, we'll be as weak as Dormammu, they screamed. Let me handle it. Nightmare invasion. Nightmare attempted to use dream magic, but Leon's willpower had ascended far beyond the Lawmaster realm. Dream control meant nothing to him. Leon did not rely on infinity stones. He fought with his own power, and against demon lords who'd left hell to roam other dimensions, he was devastatingly able, like a bully letting loose on a kindergarten brawl. He floated and exhaled a freezing breath at the 5 remaining demon gods. The blast fell toward them like the touch of absolute zero. In an instant, the 5 and the surrounding space were encased in ice, frozen solid as if the universe itself had chilled around them. "Go," Leon ordered. He launched the Time Fortress, growing it as he controlled it until it towered 300 meters tall. Its main gate yawned, and a black hole-like suction spilled out. The 5 icicle-bound demon gods and the immobilized Dormammu were drawn screaming into the fortress's maw. Mephisto, whose body had been badly burned by the heat vision, prepared to self-destruct to avoid capture. Leon wouldn't let him escape. Faster than light, he materialized behind Mephisto. His biofield flared, and a crushing kick sent Mephisto's bulk hurtling straight into the Time Fortress's entrance. "Satanish!" Mephisto bellowed as the gate began to close. Chapter 440, Dormammu, the Sky is Falling. Mephisto finally understood why Dormammu had always been so cautious. The value of Dormammu's instant kill became painfully clear. No wonder the Dimensional Demon Lord preferred to go after those who had stolen energy from the Dark Dimension, rather than simply seize this dimension himself. Mephisto bellowed Satanish's name, furious that Satanish had dared to cooperate with a human sorcerer. His shouts were equal parts anger and pleading, urging Satanish to betray the Sorcerer Supreme and save the others. "Satanish, don't be stupid. Come save us." He tried to self-destruct in a last, desperate bid, but the Time Fortress's pull suppressed every scrap of his energy. He shouted for help as the fortress dragged him in. In those final moments, he thought he saw Satanish cleaved by a crimson ray from the Sorcerer Supreme. He cursed the betrayal. He'd warned him not to trust a human. The sight brought back a memory of Johnny Blaze, a human who had counter-killed him once before. He swore that when Satanish resurrected, he would get his revenge. But the Time Fortress's suppression closed around him, and Mephisto's consciousness blacked out. Outside the fortress, the black light clone writhed. Its 2 torn halves melted back into streaming virions and remerged. Leon controlled both bodies as they reassembled and flew toward the God Realm dimension. From a distance, a voice called out, Human?" Leon turned and smiled. A dark blue demon with a massive tail streaked over, Blackheart, Mephisto's useless son. "Perfect timing," Leon said with a wave of his hand. The Time Fortress opened again, and Blackheart, hurtling in, was sucked inside. "Package it up," Leon ordered. He shrank the Time Fortress, clipped it to his waist, and drilled into the God Realm dimension. Once inside, Leon woke the real Satanish. The Hell Lord stared at him in astonishment. Leon's expression was apologetic. "Our cooperation was pleasant," he said, "but you saw my trump card. I have to erase your memory." He knocked Satanish out, slipped him back into the Time Fortress, and sealed it. With that, Satanish became the perfect scapegoat. If Mephisto or the others ever tried to retaliate, Leon figured they'd pursue Satanish first. Leon loved fleecing the dimensional demon gods. They were consummate scoundrels, and he felt no guilt extorting them. Borrowing energy and not returning it, like the Ancient One, was a hassle. Better to get a clean asset transfer contract from the start. He planned to sign unlimited power-borrowing contracts with the trapped demon lords and then dispose of them. Other dimensional demon gods can be handled that way, but Dormammu can't be let off so easily, he muttered. Leon returned to the central continent of the God Realm dimension and resumed expanding the dimension under the 6-gem rules. The dimension began to absorb scattered external energy to strengthen itself, but Leon thought it too slow. Using energy from the Infinity Stones was just robbing Peter to pay Paul. There was a better option: absorb the Dark Dimension. Connecting to the Dark Dimension felt like coming home. While Dormammu had been present in the past, he would never have allowed unfettered absorption. He would always hamper the rate. Now, with Dormammu unconscious inside the Time Fortress, Leon sang under his breath and reached out. He swiped at the void and rent a spatial rift that pierced most of the God Realm dimension. The breach spanned hundreds of billions of light years. An infinite flow of dark dimension energy poured through it like a black waterfall, as if the rift cleaved the dimension in two. The incoming tide of energy was quickly taken in by the God Realm dimension. The whole realm trembled, the vibrations growing in frequency like a shellfish shaking before molting. 1 trillion light-years, 2 trillion, 10 trillion, the dimension's diameter swelled by the moment. Months later, the expansion finally slowed. The God Realm dimension had increased in scale by more than 100,000 times, and with a low hum, had crystallized into a prototype universe. It wasn't the kind of single-universe prototype from the Marvel Multiverse. It was an unfinished cosmos, more like Ceterak's Crimson Cosmos. If this prototype ever matured, there would be no Infinity Stones. The master of that universe would be Leon alone. Inside his new prototype, Leon would be amplified to a super single entity level. This amplification would be negligible outside the universe, however. That, he thought, explained how Dormammu could be so terrifying inside his own realm, powerful enough to imprison an aspect of eternity, yet only reach Skyfather levels outside, not much stronger than an Odin-like figure in a movie universe. After months of absorption, Leon closed the rifts linking to the Dark Dimension. From the outside, the Dark Dimension now looked a little withered, smaller by several rings. If it had once been a Pacific, it was now a Mediterranean. Leon had taken 90% of Dormammu's accumulations amassed over countless eons. Perhaps I was too harsh, he admitted to himself for a moment. If the Dark Dimension had weakened so dramatically, Dormammu's grip over it would slacken. Someone could try to seize control. Leon didn't want that. If the Dark Dimension chose a new lord, it would complicate his open siphoning. He decided to let Dormammu return home quickly. He checked the dimension, then drilled into the Time Fortress again. The native creatures of the God Realm, who had endured months of trembling continents and constant terror, finally relaxed and exhaled in relief. Inside the Time Fortress, 9-dimensional demon gods lay suppressed and unconscious. Over the months, their genes and energy signatures had been fully scanned and cataloged by the Black Light clone. In Leon's terms, they were no longer outright useful, but they were useful enough. He woke them one by one and used the threat of eternal suppression to force them to sign contracts, allowing Leon's faction to borrow power without limit. These demon lords had all sent their true bodies to seize the ownerless dimension, an extraordinary risk. Ordinarily, they traveled only with clones, because they'd assumed the reward was worth it. They had even signed side agreements with Dormammu. If the situation deviated from what Dormammu said, Dormammu would pay a stiff price. The situation had indeed diverged. Satanish's betrayal and the unexpected strength of the Sorcerer Supreme had trapped their true forms so that they could not self-destruct. Their control over their home dimensions would erode over time. Humanity measured that erosion in hundreds of millions or even billions of years, but it was inevitable. No wonder they signed, noses held. Mephisto, who loved contracts more than most, inspected the parchment with trembling suspicion and asked incredulously, "The contract witnesses eternity? Are you serious?" Leon smiled without answering and began erasing the records of those who signed. He promised to release them, but he didn't explain how. Satanish was the last to be released before Dormammu. The other demon lords shot him furious looks as he went. One could imagine the vengeance they would wreak on the Hell Lord later. Satanish, meanwhile, trusted Leon and puffed himself up as he left. "Sorcerer Supreme, you broke our agreement and even hurt me," he grumbled. "What agreement?" Leon asked, feigning innocence. Satanish puffed. "You were supposed to help me deal with the other dimensional demon gods. In return, you control the dimension and make me your servant." "Oh," Leon replied, then smiled ruefully. "Sorry, I betrayed you too. I just wanted to be a better man." With a snap, he sent Satanish away. Finally, Leon stopped suppressing Dormammu and let him wake. Dormammu, who had been betrayed and suppressed for months, blinked painfully into awareness and glared at Leon. "Sorcerer Supreme," he hissed, grinding his teeth. Leon nodded with a faux kindness. "You'd better sense the dark dimension first." "Why?" Dormammu demanded. The purple flames that crowned Dormammu's head flickered and then, shockingly, went blanched white. He stared, horrified. "What's happened to my dark dimension?" he wailed, as if the sky itself had fallen in. Leon stared at the stark white flames and couldn't help but remark, almost amused, "What a vivid, expressive, pale face." Their emotions were not shared, Dormammu's panic and Leon's detached satisfaction, yet the sight was telling.